Good morning, good morning, good morning. I appreciate anybody that's going to check out this live on Freedmen Media. We've got a special stream today. It is Sunday service. I didn't put that all in there because it only allowed me so many characters, but it is Sunday service, and we've got a special guest, Mr. William Copeland, and we've got a lot to talk about. And I'm not going to belabor the time. I want to get the intro started, get these shares out, because I think we've got a lot to talk about. And I want to give him the platform to really articulate exactly what's been going on for the last now several years with him and Ann Arbor Public Schools, from Pathways to Pioneer and maybe even other sites. I'm not even sure. So let me get this started, and we'll get back at you in just a moment.
You know, this revolution is filled with so many ironies, really. First, you tell us that it is manly to keep your word, right? If you are a man, you keep your word. And now all of the black people in this country are demanding, and even the black people in the whole world are demanding, is that you keep your word. You told us we were free. Well, then show us that we're free. You told us that there is justice, equality for all in this country. Well, then stick to your word and let us see the justice and equality for all. Or else admit to us that you're not a man, you're a worm, you're afraid of us, you're afraid to give us equal stand. You're afraid that if you give us equal ground, that we will match you and we will override you.
I know that ain't who I think it is.
Y'all want to see a dead body?
But you will not kill the freedom of black folks. It's coming. We're going to get it. We fought every one of your damn lousy wars, lady, and you give us nothing. Now the war is going to be here, but we're going to be free. Now you kill you want to, but we kill too.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let me bring us on up here. Want to keep the caption. I will bring us up in full in just a moment, but I want to introduce my guest first and foremost. Brother Will, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so let me do this. I'm gonna actually put my cans on so I can knock out a whole bunch of sound. Uh-oh, we got it looped this morning. My fault. Lack of professionalism there. All right. Lack of professionalism there. Sorry about that. I don't take that loop off and it'll just circle back. The track will just circle back on me. So y'all got to excuse me, a little frazzled. I burned up a computer this morning. So we're going from a different end. But in the stream this morning, we've got a brother that I actually came to know through another friend because of some issues that have been happening over at Pathways. Y'all know I've been on that for a while, and I want Mr. Copeland. I'm going to be formal right now. I'm going to call him Cope in a few minutes, but I'm going to be formal right now. I want Mr. Copeland to be able to break some things down that have happened over the last several years concerning him with Pathways, and even his transition to where he is currently at Ann Arbor Pioneer High School. Does anybody knows anything about this story that's been going on at Pathways? We are not going to talk exclusively about that. This is more really about Will and being able to get his story out. And I want to thank him for coming in today to talk to this, because he really doesn't need to speak about anything. Actually, I've looked at his credentials and some things that got sent to me, and he's done way much more than what his job title would dictate him to do. And we're going to get into a lot of that because I think there's been a lot of dirt thrown on his name. I've seen it publicly myself on social media, and I want to clear a lot of that up. But I could ramble all day on that stuff. But good morning, brother. How you doing? I appreciate you getting up here on Sunday with me.
Good morning. I'm doing all right.
Good. So I've been on this thing about Pathways and the situation they were dealing with the ladies and the gay kids and the black kids. And from what I know now, it's all encompassed. You know, the young ladies, the gay kids, the black kids, they're all one and the same. I thought it was like different sections, but from what I know now with the demographics, it's all us pretty much over there being marginalized at Pathways. But I brought you in today to really talk about something that had just kind of got on my radar, and I just didn't understand, because I talk a lot about Black leadership, and I talk a lot about us being failed by Black leadership. And then it's unfortunate where when we get people that are in place that do the right things by children, they don't stay long. They don't they don't stay long, and that's a problem with me. And I came to know you, like I said, through another friend, and I knew you did good things, and I know you're doing good things now. So I want to really start at the beginning. Now, I know you're at Pioneer now, and you were at Pathways, but as a whole, when did you start working for the Ann Arbor Public School System? Let's put that out there now.
Ooh, I think that was like 14 or 15 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I started as a custodian.
Okay.
Yeah, I've kind of worked my way through the whole gamut and to where I am now.
So, and here's the thing. My grandmother was a custodian in the public schools for 36 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that custodians are really like the root of the staff. Like, custodians know everything that's going on in the school. I learned that growing up. And then, you know, I got close with Mr. Jackson, who was the head custodian at Huron. You know, I've known people, my cousins have worked in the schools.
Mr.
Yes,
Jackson, you know who that is, right?
Lionel Jackson?
Yeah, you know that's my great uncle.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Are y'all related to everybody? The Copeland is related to everybody? Good Lord. Okay.
That's my drum right. That's my mom.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Who is Stevie to you?
That's my father.
Stevie's your daddy?
Yes.
Oh man. Man, okay. So Stevie's known me since I was yay big. He's friends with all my cousins because he's in that older generation. So I've known Stevie since I was a little boy. Stevie was a great customer at DeLong's. Damn. So this is so funny because this is genuine. See, a lot of people they'll talk like this and be knowing each other for 10, 15 years. We're literally just meeting each other. We've only had a couple phone conversations and we've only texted a few times. And I didn't even know that. So Stevie is your daddy. Okay. Well, I just seen Stevie during the football season when I was illegally parking up in Huron, and he don't ever bother me. You know, he knows who I am. He knows I ain't gonna make no trouble. But I ain't parking a country mile to watch the game. So he knows I know the little nooks and crannies up in Huron where to park so I can be close. But
okay.
Well, good stuff. Good stuff. So 14, 15 years in, working as a custodian, what did you see in AAPS that made you not only want to stay within the system, because you've gone on to do so many more things than just making sure that the school was tight? Where did you start to see yourself transitioning into some different areas within the school system?
I think it's when I took position in the union as a steward and then a vice president.
Okay.
And from there, I got involved with the national side of the union, and I went to a lot of different trainings. I did a couple public speaking events and so forth. And it's kind of like I guess a calling that comes to you, because it was just like, I don't know, like, you should help people.
Right.
You know, like,
right. I get it. I mean, you don't know that you should do it until you start to do something. Yeah. I mean, at a young age, I learned, and I didn't know this, but I was always a bully of bullies. You know, I wasn't like a gooch, but I didn't like people messing with people like the smaller kids or the younger kids. And I always kind of protected people. So I saw myself when I was younger as a protector. Now, if we were the same size, I might bully you around just because I was, I talked stuff and was pretty athletic for who I was. But I never allowed it to happen to people that what we would call the voiceless now. My thing was always protect those. And as I grew up, I saw that I liked helping, dealing with kids, working with kids. And I started working in high school. We started working at Highcone at the community center. And that's where I kind of got my first taste of like mentoring and talking to young kids and dealing with young kids. And it was cool to me. You know, we used to remember the rec department stuff. They used to come out to the elementary schools and used to do the braid and all that stuff, and, and all types of games. And I misses all that stuff now. They've done away with all of those things, and they wonder why kids don't come out in the summer, because there's no reason to. There's no place for them to go. There's nothing's for them to do. So with what you're saying, it was a calling. And I feel that you have to have that in your spirit first before somebody just hands you a job title and says, hey, we want you to go work with these kids. It's got to be within you first. So once you got that calling, what was your first position from being a custodian? What was your first position outside of that where you started working directly with the kids?
So I actually started doing it as a custodian.
Okay.
At Burns Park. I would play football at lunch with the kids. I had a decent arm, I guess, and so I could throw the ball further than they could. So I just played their all-time quarterback.
Okay.
And that grew into, sometimes they would have kids, kind of tag with me. Kids that were giving them a little bit of issue, they would tag with me for, maybe, 30, 40 minutes a day. I'd basically, talk to them, try and get them into the right mind, to help out, with some of their issues, mostly behavioral issues. And so,
right.
So that actually started at Burns Park.
Okay. And, so Burns was my first elementary school. I grew up in Colonial Square, but I went to Burns Park because most of my family that lived in that central part of town, it went to Burns Park, and it was a great drop-off spot for me with my mom going to work. So I've got my first 4.5 years of elementary at Burns Park. So I definitely understand what you're saying. Now, Burns Park in the 70s is probably different than Burns Park today.
Yeah.
You know, so I know that when you talk about behavioral issues, that probably wasn't the extent of a lot of problems, but a lot of kids over there don't really have resource issues. They don't have access issues. Those kids come from families. Most of them come from families that are doing pretty well for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I do understand now that a lot of kids have been integrated into the Burns Park program that don't necessarily live in the community. We actually, my grandmother's house was on Woodlawn, so technically we were in the community, but I just got picked up and dropped off, you know, and went back to Colonial. So what's the dynamic, or what was the dynamic with you there dealing with kids, black kids to white kids? Are there more black kids that go to Burns Park nowadays than there used to be? Because
I doubt it. They get busted in mainly from Glencoe.
Okay.
So, you know, it is a bit far and it's a bit disconnecting.
Right. Because you're not dealing with the same type of situations that those kids that are getting busted in. Yeah.
And so, like, but no, I was good with both black and white. Like,
sure. You're a Copeland, dog. You're a Copeland. You can talk to anybody.
I didn't get pigeonholed into black kids until later on.
I got it.
That as we move on.
I got it.
I was good with both. I was good with kids.
Yeah. And that right there to me is great. That you understood you didn't just have to talk to black kids because you were black.
Yeah.
And the fact that you have that diversity in you, it's just in your blood, bro.
Yeah.
It's if nobody's ever told you that, I'm telling you right now, it's in your blood. The Drumright, Copeland, it's all in your blood. Jackson, whomever, it's in your blood to be able to communicate. People didn't understand Mr. Lionel back in the day. They didn't understand him because he just looked like an old gruff man with a cigar sticking out of his mouth. But he had so much wisdom that I didn't really understand it and respect it until I was an adult. Mm-hmm. But once you got to working with the kids at Burns Park, did you do any type of programs? Because I want to talk about some of these things that you started. Were you able to start any programs at Burns Park, or did that come later?
Yeah, programs didn't start coming till later.
Okay.
That was mainly, you know, hanging out. I don't know. I can't really grasp, like, it's hard to talk about yourself in that sense, like, oh, what I was doing or whatever. But like, you know, I was just good with the kids, and I was also like one of the youngest head custodians in the district. I think at the time I was the youngest.
Okay.
So like, yeah, so I'm running the building side of things, you know, and still interacting with the kids, and there was also my first taste of not getting along with administration, and
okay,
and so because you know that's how I got to Dickin, and that was it. That was tough for me because I didn't want to leave.
Sure.
They felt it was in the best interest for me to leave.
Okay.
And you know, you got kids crying because you know you just getting kind of snatched away. You get kids crying and stuff, and you built the relationship with these kids and even the adults. And you know, when I got to Dickin, like a week later, the inter-school mail delivers all these letters from the kids saying come back and we appreciate you and stuff. And it was just, that was really tough.
Yeah. I mean, I've never dealt with anything like that, but I've heard about the other situation dealing with pathways, but that had to be even more heartfelt because you're talking about K-5.
Yeah.
And you know, those kids, when they compose a letter, it's from the heart. Whatever they say, whatever they can put, whether it be spelled correctly or incorrectly, it's from the heart.
Yeah.
So that had to be tough.
And, you know, and it was the first time, you know, it was my first experience with being transferred to somewhere, like, despite me being good at my job, didn't matter. If the personalities don't mix with leadership, then they move you on. And so, because when I got there, I introduced a lot of things, like, because I was younger, I introduced a lot of technology. Like, I could use email. I could use, you know, documents, forms, making things a lot easier than submitting paper and stuff like that, really modernizing things, getting things a bit more organized. I remember they had this back closet room that was just so congested, you know, got that knocked out just using smart planning and delegation and utilizing extra staff when we had it. So like, but that's kind of when I learned the politics that it's not just enough to be good. You gotta you got to make people comfortable.
Right.
And,
right.
And so like, lesson learned. I was young, that was the first taste of that I got.
Well, and let me explain something to you, because a similar thing happened to me when I got into broadcasting. And it sounds like what you did was you stirred the pot to where nobody else even knew that there was a pot. Mm-hmm. You made things happen, and that was to your detriment, because you're obviously making people look bad now that you're doing things that were not going on before. They're never going to say that you made them look bad, but because you put things in play and it was to the benefit of the kids, well, that's what these other people were put in play for, to benefit the kids, and they weren't doing those particular things. So understanding that now you've got yourself pitted against administration. The kids are with you. You're doing right by the kids. You're implementing new things for the kids. Where was the first issue with administration, and what did they say it was? What did they say the issue was?
The first issue was they used to call the custodian by ringing a bell. And I didn't really like that. It just felt weird.
What do you mean ringing a bell? They had they have a PA system.
No, they would ring the bell like 3 times or something. That's how you call the custodian. And it was like,
what?
Gosh, man, that seems very like plantation. So I was like, yo, you don't have to ring the bell. Call me on my cell phone. Like, you need me, just call me on my phone, which actually was working out to be a lot better, like, especially for the secretaries. Like, boom, they had me on speed dial. They could call me on the phone, or they could shoot me a text. So it actually made things a lot easier.
Will they ring a bell?
And the administrator would keep ringing that bell, and I would stop answering. Like, I'm not coming to the call of a bell.
Okay. See, this is going to go a whole different direction with who I am. So I went to this school, and Burns Park was one of the more antiquated schools. Does Burns Park have a bell at the top of the school? I'm sure it's not the bell that they use, but it's an old schoolhouse.
I think so, but they use the in-school bell.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, I know that that's an old school, and they could do the ding ding way back in the day. Okay, so they rang a bell. Now you had text message. You could have called. You could have did the loudspeaker. You could have did anything. Kids in the school. Hey, run down to Mr. Copeland's office and tell him that he's needed and so and so. Anything. But why ring the bell? Because, see, the bell is very distinguishing, because I don't think there was anybody else in the school, and this is just me, but I don't think anybody else got the bell rang for them to come.
No one else got the bell rang.
Just guessing. Guessing.
And you could say it was trivial. It was just one of my things. It just didn't feel right.
We ain't gonna say it's trivial, dog. We already know what it was. We're not gonna do that on Freedmen Media. We know why they were ringing the bell. For you to come hither, come hither,
But like the phone, but it was just crazy because the phone thing was it was such a better way. Like, anyone could contact me, shoot me a text on the phone, anyone in the building. Like, so if you needed me in your room at this time, you didn't have to call up to the office anymore for them to ring a bell, for me to come to the office, for them to tell me that I need to go here. You could just shoot me a text, and then boom, I'm there. Or you can shoot me an email, which went directly to my phone too. So it's that, I think it's that, how dare a subordinate tell me how he wants to be treated. And I think that some people they take that in and they internalize it, and it becomes all about that. So it's no longer about the job that's getting done, the job you're doing. It becomes the defiance.
Right.
And the breaking.
And see, that's the thing. I think once you stand up for yourself, then you're never going to work your way back on to being compliant. Like, they looked at that one thing with you, and I can see your hair, so I already know you had locks. So that was a problem too, but they didn't know how to say nothing to it, and they couldn't really do nothing to you. But I know all of these things, and it's just because I'm an old dude, man, and I get the politics and the madness of it all. But for them to have had that type of thing, I mean, you said 14, 15 years ago, so that takes us back to 2000.
At the time, I didn't have locks yet.
You didn't have locks yet?
I mean, but I'm still I'm dark. I'm 6'2", 6'3" on a good day. It depends what shoes I'm wearing.
Right.
I'm still 250, 270. And so I'm still, you know,
you were a big black Negro, so it doesn't really matter. You were whether your hair was long or not, you were a big black Negro.
Yeah, and the thing is, you know, and not to discredit, you know, the community of Burns Park, because they treated me very well. The parents, students, I mean, nothing but love out there. It was amazing because, you know, it dispelled some things for me because I didn't necessarily know what Burns Park was going over there besides what I heard. And it was the community treated me amazingly. And I, you know, and I responded too. Like one of the things, you know, I'm a really big shoe guy. And the teacher was collaborating with parents to run an auction, and I donated, you know, like 10 of my shoes. And when we're talking about the type of shoes that I buy, like,
well, I didn't see your page. Now that we Facebook friends, I didn't see, you know, like, I ain't seen the same pair of shoes in 2 pictures yet.
And so, like, I donated my shoes, and the parents came out and they bought them, and, you know, they raised a lot of money for the kids in the class. And so that was the type of relationship, you know, that we had over there with the community that we were all participating in. And even to this day, you know, I still speak to quite a few of my Burns Park kids.
Okay.
Because as we move forward in the story, I actually double back, and when they see me again, they're in high school because I move up. But but nope, we had that issue with administration, and so my bags were packed, and I was moving on to Dickin.
So you went from Burns Park to Dickin Elementary, and the same capacity as a custodian, or was there any
capacity?
Okay. And how did Dickin, that's West Side, going from Central to that's West Side now. How did that trip go?
Dickin was great.
Okay.
And, you know, and when I tell people Michael Madison was the best administrator I had as a boss, hands down, like it's not even close, people can't believe me.
The brother?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, Mr. Madison was your supervisor? Your Oh wow! Okay.
Like people don't believe, like Michael Madison. I'm like, yeah, man, Mike was great.
And he wasn't really like when I was in school, but I understood him once I became an adult, though.
So, and I also had him as an administrator when I was in middle school at Tappan.
Okay.
And he was not the same man that he was when I came to Dickin.
Right.
And apparently, you know, there were some things that may have happened in between then and there, but you know, it was nice to see that growth. Okay. And when I got to Dickin, he understood the circumstances from which I came. And instead of being like, look, you know, don't start no trouble and we don't want you doing this, doing that, he actually he began to empower. Like, he's like, I want you to do the extra stuff. Okay. I want you to pour into these kids. Like, I want you to, you know, be creative. I want you to do more. Nice. And it was nice. Like, unfortunately, I think that was about 10, 11 years ago. That was the last home that I would have in the district. Okay. Everywhere else now, I'm just a visitor. But it was a wonderful experience working with the kids, doing talent shows, you know, the staff and versus kids, kickball like games, stuff like that. Just all types of stuff we had going on there. And it was amazing. And Mike did a wonderful job of like constantly like diffusing things, but creating an environment of strong communication and partnerships. And like, he never really let things fester, whether it was staff, between kids, whatever. Like, you had a problem with someone, he'd bring both people into the office and be like, you know, let's hash this out right now. Had a ton of wisdom, you know, just all around, just great dude. And the staff, great. And which is a sign, you know, of his ability to hire. That will be one thing, you know, that we touch on, you know, as we go through this conversation. But man, did he would get the right people. And you never realize that until you go somewhere where you have someone who does not get the right people. Right. And you have to understand that, you know, seeking talent and kind of leadership, you know, like that is a talent that you have to like hire the right people, bring the right people in. Like, not everybody is up for that. Right. And, you know, Mike did a really good job of kind of bringing in the right people, creating a solid, stable environment where we can work together. Right. You had no problems, you know, volunteering at the after school stuff, the ice cream socials and things like that, because it was like that was the community that Dickin was. And,
right.
And so like, it was just,
So when you have that type of superior, and I have no problem with calling people superiors when they deserve it. You know, sometimes it's just the supervisor. Sometimes it's just, you know, I don't like using the term boss, but you know, it happens every now and then, it'll slip out, but I was conditioned to not ever use that term. But when you have somebody like Mr. Madison, and like I said, I didn't understand him until I was an adult. And I do think he evolved through his tenure with the school system, but understanding how to pick talent, understanding how to pick the right people and put them in the right places, because at the end of the day, it's not about that individual, it's about the kids. And if that individual doesn't fit what you've got working with the kids, y'all not gonna cook right together.
Yeah.
So that was a great thing for him. Unfortunately, things were different. You might have wanted to stay at Burns Park, but as you've already said, you found a home there because it wasn't just a workspace. It wasn't just a job site. You were welcome in, and you were obviously given not only the flex to be able to do things and implement different programs and whatnot, but they made you feel like you belong there. You know, hell, some jobs will make you feel like you belong there during business hours, but if you're there 20 minutes, 30 minutes after they close, they looking at you like, why are you still here? What you gonna steal? What's going? And I've been a part of those situations, so I understand. And I'm not saying that you ever felt that way with AAPS, but my thing is that right there, I know Ann Arbor Public Schools doesn't have enough to this day. They don't have enough people in leadership, and we're going to get to pathways in a minute, to where they're picking the proper people and putting them in the right positions so that the kids can really build. Yeah. Because that's what this is all about. I think a lot of people are being given positions based on tenure, based on nepotism, sometimes based on their religious beliefs, and we'll get there in a minute. Staying at Dickin for how long? How long were you there?
Gosh, I should have prepared that part.
Don't worry about it. Just give me a rough.
I should have prepared my timeline. But I want to say that I was at Dickin for about oh, sorry, I was just reading the comment.
Oh, don't worry about it. Yeah, I try to put him up there as soon as I see him as well.
I think Dickin was 3 years.
Okay. So 3. And how many at Burns? How many did you do at Burns?
I think it was 3 at Burns too. So 3 at Burns, 3 at Dickin.
So 3 at Burns, teeter-totter at Burns, a very good environment at Dickin. What led to you leaving Dickin to go to your next site? And where was the next site?
It was actually Mike who kind of pushed me ahead. And my sister, Ebony. And so as time went on, we began to learn that I had a talent of working with kids. And
okay.
So, and it was looking like the custodians were about to be privatized. I think we were probably when I left Dickin, I think we were a year out from that.
We're going to get to that in a minute, too. We're going to get to that because I'm still hot about that.
The community assistant position at Pathways had opened up. And Ebony was like, you should apply. When I say Ebony, that's my older sister. Ebony was like, you should apply. And Mike was like, you should apply. And Mike was like, you know what? You're going to apply, and I'm going to write you a letter. And it's like, basically it's time for you to fly.
Okay.
And so, so I applied, I interviewed, and I got the job. And so I left Dickin and I headed over to Pathways.
Okay. So coming into Pathways, was Dr. Edmondson still?
No, I was interviewed by Tyrone Weeks and his staff. And I was hired by Tyrone Weeks.
Okay, you're hired by Tyrone Weeks. Okay. And from what I know now, he's no longer with the district. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So when you came in, I know that when you're going into a new job, you get your references, you get all this and stuff like that. But now you've got 6 years in the school system. What did you take with you to Pathways because you immediately hit the ground running at Pathways immediately. So what did you take to Pathways that for me, I don't think they picked up, Cope. I mean, I'm just saying, I don't believe that they really understood who you were, and maybe they didn't have that conversation that they should have had with Madison. But what did you start with at Pathways? And you've moved from custodian now to a CA or TA?
Yeah, CA.
Okay. So job change, but you're still coming in with the same fervor for the kids.
Go ahead.
Were they giving you the flexibility that Mr. Madison gave you to work with the kids immediately, or did you have to build that on your own?
I started to build it on my own. So one of the great things about Pathways, it's great and it's unfortunate, is that Pathways is like a ball of clay. It hasn't been formed yet. So like, unlike the big high schools where they're like a functioning machine, like you can't really change too much in there because it's a machine and it's going. Pathways is like this ball. It's a ball of clay. Like when you come in there, there's so many things that you can do. Because it isn't formed yet, which is, amazing when you got the right people, but it can also be very detrimental when you don't have the right people. Right. And so when I got there, I was just a typical CA, monitoring the halls and stuff like that, getting settled in, and you start to see, kind of needs for things. It all started for me with Open Gym. But so I have an entrepreneurial background. Before even coming into the schools, and I've traveled quite a bit. I got my passport. I've traveled a lot. I've been to a lot of places. So and then you mix that in with my background. We started in Pine Lake, moved to Stony Brook. My mom sent me to live. I got kicked out. She sent me to live with my dad on the south side. And we moved to West Willow. I came back to my mom's, and we moved to West Willow from Stony Brook. So I've got these ties to the community because, I've lived in all these places. I'm from the community. And then, I like to call myself, I'm like biracial, half black, half nigga. Because, I got that drum right in me, and my mom's side.
I got you. I got you.
And then I'm a Copeland. And if Copeland's, and so I can blend between the two crowds. Right. Because this is just who I'm made of. And Ebony used to always say, we had 3 or 4 different childhoods. And so you put all these things together and they start to function as I always call myself the bridge, a bridge. It's just the ability to connect one thing to the other. Right. Because of my my upbringing and how I came up and where I've been, and I went to Roberto, so I wasn't the best acting kid. I get it twice. I get it. And so and so I'm familiar with the alternative school community. End up graduating from Pioneer, but so I have my background at Roberto and the things we used to do at Roberto and everything that Joe brought to the school. And then, my appreciation and Joe grew tremendously as I got older, because I started to see a lot of the things that I began to study and learn, man, he was doing years ago, decades. Yeah. And it just didn't have a name yet, from restorative justice, PBIS, all that stuff. He was doing all that stuff at a high level. Like I said, it just didn't have a name. And then, you grow up and you understand the gravity of how big Joe was. I mean, he was on a presidential campaign with Al Gore, the vice president. Talk about talent, talk about genius. And, he was leading that program at Clemente. And I also think when you think of programs like that, you need a superstar like that. You need someone brilliant like that. And I just think that's where they've come up lacking in leadership for the alternative program. Right. But, going back to, what got me started. So because it started with open gym, and because of my connections with the community, like, you know, there was a comfort in some of the kids coming up and participating in the open gyms and stuff like that. And what I started to realize is, like, so the open gym was like open to Pathways kids and the greater the neighborhood, like, you know, because kids would bring their friends from other schools and stuff like that. We started getting kids who had into the open gym who were dropping out, who had already dropped out. And, you know, Pathways had that GED program.
Right. And
so, like, I would pull the kids aside, like, you in school, man? And like, nah, like, yo, you want to work on your GED while you up here? And, you know, we start getting kids signed up for the GED program so they could come to the GED classes and then go to the open gym. Like, since they were already going to be up here. And so,
pause. So you're a CA, and I know that, you know, and I've mocked it, but I'm not going to mock it here because it doesn't need to be mocked. But a CA is the sexy word for hall monitor. You're far beyond a hall monitor, so we would never use that here. But a CA, a community assistant, who's now bringing kids, and if I'm not, I guess I'm going to use the word, recruiting kids to come back to school to get their GED. That's not in your pay grade, nor do you get paid more per kid. This is just something you're doing on your own, and it all started where? The open gym. And if you didn't have the ability to have the gym open, you wouldn't have had access to those kids, and they wouldn't have had the access to you or the opportunity to come back to school to get their GED.
And then also, part of me being a part of the community, I wasn't afraid of the kids. And so that's why the open gym was able to function. Yeah. Because don't get me wrong, we had some tough boys coming up in there. And I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to be with my people.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, the boys really could sense that.
Right.
And so, you know, that kind of leads into gosh, I need to drink some water. I should have had a water.
Do your thing. But if you've got to vacate, I can hold court while you're going, because one of the things I want you, because we're just entering Pathways. We ain't even got to any of the stuff that I got here, because we're gonna hit all the notches today. But you're a CA. You're doing the open gym.
The thing is, real quick, Shannon, I don't mind being called a CA or a hall monitor, because those things are always kind of used to, like, oh, we're gonna humble him, we're gonna call him a hall monitor.
I get it.
Like, it's cool. Like, it is totally cool. I have no hangups with it, because it just becomes funny to me. It's comical.
Right.
You know,
because we got hung up. We got hung up before with the cast when you said I did so much more. When we were talking about, when I said you coached, I said he came, he coached, he conquered, and he was removed. That was just a play on words. I'm a wordsmith. I like to be able to put words together and make them work. But I saw you already much more than just a coach, and I didn't even know you. I hadn't even gotten all the credentials. But the thing was, a coach to me is a mentor, is a teacher, an instructor, is a guide, is somebody that can facilitate for you, because he gives you a play. Now, that's whether on the court of the field. You might give him a play for the classroom. You might give him a play in life. You might get you a 16, 17-year-old who wants to take a girl out. He don't even know how to talk to girls. You can coach him how to be a gentleman. There's a different, see, a lot of people just look at coach when a kid's got a number on his back. You're a coach in life. And I think the term got overridden and overused, and I don't think it's used the right way, but you are a life coach, because you're breathing life into these young kids, whether they want to give you credit or not. I'm here to give you credit. And I know the kids have been here to give you credit all these years, but the right people haven't seen it. And they're the right people because they're in the.
What you mean the right people? You mean
I'm going to clarify it. The people that are in leadership haven't seen it.
Oh, they see it. They see it. They just choose to ignore it.
I was trying to stay away from that, Will, because we got so much fat to chew on that. We got so much fat to chew on that.
But marginalization is always the classic way of dealing with folks like me, trying to make it as if we don't exist.
Right.
But they see it.
Okay.
That's one thing I'm gonna stand on. They see it. It's too much for you not to see.
So you saw an increase in enrollment in your first year, probably, of being there because the kids were coming to the GED program. Did anybody personally come to you and say, Cope, what's going on here, man? You got kids enrolling in the GED program. How'd you do this? Did anybody just say anything like that?
That didn't happen, but I didn't shop for that. It was just mainly because that's another thing. And I guess, my significant other always tells me, I need to do a better job of marketing myself. I just do it. And I'm not looking for, the accolades associated with things or things like that. I just do it.
Take it from a brother. How old are you, Will?
38.
Okay. Take it from a brother that's got 16 calendars on you. Okay. Stop that humble shit now. Because you're not going to get the credit that you deserve by being humble. I'm not telling you to be arrogant. I'm not telling you to be cocky, but your confidence should be way more out there, outspoken than it is right now. You've done more in your tenure, 14, 15 years at AAPS, than there's been people that have come and gone and retired. So your confidence level, inner confidence is probably fine. But as far as putting it out there, you absolutely are doing a horrible job of marketing yourself. I just met you and I can already tell because you are humble. Look, that's your family too. Your family you don't come from a family of braggarts. You don't come from a family. Your people they just get in the mud. They just do what they need to do. I get it. But where you are with children, they're going to show your progress. But you've got to also put it out there. And once I saw what was going on, reading the report and seeing things that you've done in the past, but I had never heard anything. I done asked several people about you. They know who you are, but they really don't know you because they know of your actions, they know of your results, but they don't know you. Just like people have looked at me and said, oh, that was you. Yeah, man, but I don't need to worry about that. The results were done and let's move on. Let's try to build something better. You're in that same frame and you got a much longer way to go than I do at this point. But that humbleness, sometimes you got to stick your chest out a little bit and just show this is me. This is what I've created. Because we're going to talk about that. You're in there. The kids are joining school. They're joining the gym. Where did it go from the open gym to the point where you started to think about possibly putting something organized together? Was that first year, second year? Where was that at?
I think that's when we get into second year, because I believe second year is when we merged with Clemente.
Okay.
And so, so year two. So I was doing the open gym. I was also the evening CA, while we did the options program. And and the options was the online program that kids, who were credit deficient would come in to catch up.
Okay.
Or wanted to get ahead, whatever floats your boat. I mean, it was available to the students and it was free. So I ain't blaming them for getting that extra credit if they didn't need it. So basketball is funny because basketball is a carrot. And it's what gets the most notoriety of what it did. But it was a carrot. It was a way to get these kids involved and get them coming.
Right.
And so the next year, I started looking into the Rec and Ed. Rec and Ed had a high school basketball league. And so I was like, we can make a team here and we can participate in Rec and Ed. Right. And so that's what I did. I got them all signed up and everything. And we got a team. We started having practices and stuff like that. And that's how the beginning of the basketball team was formed.
So with that being said,
yeah.
Did you already have the mentoring program going? Had you started working on that, or did that come later?
No, that all started to come in the same year.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong. Is it Sankofa?
Yeah, Sankofa Youth Empowerment League.
Okay. So that program, was that pretty much the kids that played on the team, or did you have kids
those,
that were
those were other kids? So
okay?
a couple of them were basketball players, but we had quite a few more who did not play basketball.
Okay.
And I also created the 3-on-3 tournament that was in the building. So that was another one. Gosh, I totally forgot about that. But yeah, we had like a 3-on-3 basketball tournament before we went to winter break.
Outside of the standard 5-on-5 basketball league or team that you had.
It was cool because, you know, we had a comedian hosted, an Instagram famous guy. And then we, you know, we handed out trophies. And I remember when the team won and we gave out trophies to the team, and we gave the MVP trophy to one of the guys on the team, and he was like, man, I ain't never got a trophy in my life. And
wow,
it just hit me like, dang, like,
right.
Like, dang, you know, you 17 years old, this is your first trophy, because I gotten trophies younger and doing sports and competitions and stuff like that. Like, I just never really thought of.
I got my last trophy at 17. See, that's crazy to me. I played junior football and junior football, high school football. That's when I got my last. And so they do that. You change that kid's life forever, because you did something that nobody else had ever did for him in the 17 years. How can you be humble on that? That's what I'm saying. You can't really hold and say, you know what, I haven't really done out here what I don't even know how you would even characterize it, but you put something in that kid's hand that he had never had in his life at 17, Will. At 17. I'm really embellishing, because I hear a lot of your spirit and things that I've tried to put in place or have put in place. The fact that I love dealing with kids as well. The main thing for you, though, you were trying to maximize kids. See, I would get kids in a certain frame and really have to give them back, right? You know, you get them for a few months coaching this, that, and you got to give them back. You're with these kids every single day, and you're able to do other things with you. Now, with the mentoring program and the budding basketball program, there were other things that you were doing. You were taking these kids on trips and doing different things like that. And if I'm not mistaken, you have a reading program as well?
Yeah, I do now.
Okay, so that came later. Okay, yeah. So did they let you get into the educational side, knowing that you came in as a CA, and they're supposed to have people in play? Did they let you get into the educational side, helping with kids with grades and tutoring, mentoring, or giving them access to that stuff while you were at Pathways?
I mean, so that naturally came. That came through like the study hall that was created for the basketball team.
Okay.
If I'm coaching, I'm monitoring. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I'm looking at your grades. I'm looking at whether or not you're here. There was the, and then, you know, with the mentoring program, so, you know, they would go to Arrowwood, or they would go to
Bryant Community Center.
Arrowwood and Bryant Community Center. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's all right. I'm reading it, so I'm cheating. I'm reading it right now. Go ahead.
And so, you know, and then when they would turn in their community service hours, they could actually use those for some extra credit.
Okay.
And so like hold on, let me put this on Do Not Disturb.
You're good. Anybody's joining us late, we are talking to Will Copeland. He is an Ann Arbor Public School employee. He's done great things over the last 14, 15 years. And we're really just kind of at the beginning still. I know we're about 55 minutes in, but where we are is his third site in the school system, starting at Burns Park, moving over to Dickin Elementary. And then now he is at Pathways, the alternative school between your first and second year. So anybody that's checking out the live and you're just catching up, this is what we're speaking about. And once again, I appreciate you being here, Will. So yeah, just proceed from there.
And I would have teachers, you know, ask me to talk to kids, even come and sit in the classroom, you know, to kind of calm the environment a little. So those things were going on. So I was involved with the educational aspects.
Let me ask you this. Did they do it because they knew you had the juice with the kids, or did they do it because you was the big black Negro, and they knew nobody was gonna mess with you. I mean, I'm gonna be real. We're gonna be as real as it can get today.
Here's my thing with that, because I'm always trying to be self-aware. I understand my size and presence makes me a little bit more effective in certain environments.
Okay.
I'm totally completely aware of that, and sure. I'm aware to the point where when I would talk to a kid, I wouldn't get too close because I understand how intimidating that could be. So I try and keep 4 or 5 steps between the kids, especially when I'm addressing behavior, right? Because I don't want to make you seem like I'm up on you. Because me being 2 steps away from you is different than someone who's 5'4", $150 being 2 steps away from you,
right? And
so so I am aware of that, but there have been plenty of big guys, to come through, and they don't get the respect that I get.
Right.
And so a lot of that was, yes, the juice. Because, all in all, man, this game is about respect.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids knew they had that from me. If they didn't know they had anything, they had respect. Even in their worst moments. I had a kid tell me he was gonna beat my ass. He was just having a bad day. And I was like, man, I'll talk to you later. And that later was, I went over to where he worked, and he was serving my table. I made sure I got set in his area. He was serving my table, and I was cutting up. I was, this spoon dirty, this is that, all this other stuff. And he just laughing. He like, man, Colt, what is you doing, man? After I gave the waiter to he was the one buzzing the tables. And I went and gave him a nice sip. And I was like, but you see how it is when people come to your job and they having a bad day? And he he just put his hand down and he laughed. And he was like, I see it, man. He was like, I'm sorry. And I was like, cool, man. So now we know. And so that's the thing. It's in that moment, I could have blew that up.
Yeah.
I could have got him suspended or something like that. But, I was like, let me figure out my way how I'm going to do this.
Right.
And, I let it go. The ego ain't that big for me, man. I can let it go. Right. And since then, me and that kid, we've had a great relationship all the way out now to his adult years and stuff.
Yeah.
And but it was those moments, and those moments are important because, you get in touch with a kid in their community, and that's just, it's different. And I understand people are like, that's extra work and all this other stuff. And it's just sometimes though, you got to do the extra work in order for the regular work to be easy.
Right.
And so, and that was just a slight lesson, and even though I was messing with him, it was easier communicating that than it was trying to going back and forth, yelling at him in the hallway. And, and so, and then the other part about it is, I was able to get dinner. And, we have that moment now. And so when we come back, things are a lot better. They're a lot smoother, but that's how you gain that respect.
Right.
And so so when requested to deal with kids or be in the classroom or things like that, it was primarily because of respect that the other kids showed me.
So I guess, these are things that to you and I, they're second nature. And I know that the big thing nowadays is we gonna match energy. And I don't know how that ever really works. If you want some negative stuff, why would I want to match your energy? You know what I'm saying? What I do is I can come at you with the same type of fervor, but I'm coming at you different. I'm gonna be, I'm trying to be a peacemaker within this situation. And for people that are out here that think that matching energy is something that is good, if it's on a negative end, I'm not sure exactly how you think you're going to get 2 negatives are going to make the positive. And what you do, you're already dealing with kids that have encountered things. And Will's he's getting straight. I know he's getting some water. He's doing some different things. So if y'all see the screen flashing, I think he's good. He knows what he's doing. I believe he can still hear me as I'm speaking. I believe that matching energy is probably one of the worst things in our diaspora, I guess you want to say, because people feel like they have to be where that other person is to get things done. And it's quite the opposite. You actually have to be coming from a different angle if that person is on some real goofy, grimy shit, you've got to be on that other end. Now you've got to do what you got to do to protect yourself. And I never want to tell a kid, you know, because I tell my grandkids, you know, you always protect yourself. You don't need to strike first. You don't need to do this. You don't need to do that. But I don't think matching energy is always the best thing, because generally when somebody's talking about that, you're coming from a negative perspective. And you did to that kid what he needed, because he didn't need to be matched, but he needed to be met. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't understand there's a difference between being matched and being met. And you met him where he needed to be met, but you didn't match his energy, or that could have just ended up being a situation. You mentioned slightly in there, you could have got him suspended. You have that power. You have that power to take him to the principal's office, the administration, or whatever, and probably get him out for a couple of days or in-house, however the suspensions go. But you know, the kid doesn't benefit at all when they are excommunicated from the schoolhouse. You know that they're not in any way benefiting when they're not being educated. Mm-hmm. So you're going to go around things like that to try to make sure at all costs, I'm going to keep you in the building.
Yeah.
And that's what I think we miss here too. And what I think Ann Arbor Public Schools is missing is people like yourself. Because I'm not saying that there aren't other people trying, but verbally, I haven't heard this, because I think that too many people are trying to protect their positions versus protecting the kids. And mm-hmm. and I believe that's really where you get a lot of the pushback, because you have a kids first mentality versus a lot of people have a position first, or, you know, what do they call it now? Clout chasing. They're a clout first. They're not going to go beneath where they feel like they stand status wise. So mm-hmm. you're dealing with that.
And I was on that type of time too.
Okay.
You know, that wasn't anything that I wasn't for at one point in time. So sure. You know, like you have to you know, so there was an evolution for me too, because, you know, I was of the kill, because you remember, well, you didn't know this, but I had adopted my baby brother.
Okay.
He was a budding football star and on his way to college and everything like that. And so, like, you know, and so I've been dealing with a high schooler in my home, you know, for a while now.
Wow.
And so, you know, that gave me a little bit more insight into, you know, even though we're 10, 11 years apart. And that was another thing. Like, I wasn't that far apart in age when I first came to Pathways, but even though we're like 10, 11 years apart, you know, like, there are some differences. There are a lot of nuances that, you know, mm-hmm. helping to raise him I started to understand, because, you know, when you come from environments, you know, like we did, like me and my sister, and you get to a certain point, you start to take on this mentality of, why don't y'all be more like me? You know, like, I was able to do this. I overcame this. I overcame that. You know, you should be like me. Mm-hmm. And we don't realize how, like, you know, I'll often use an example of my younger brother, who's 5 years younger than me. So I'll say younger brother and baby brother. It's mm-hmm. 6 of us.
Okay.
But, like, we grew up in the same room, you know, shared bunk beds, you mm-hmm. know, like, and we are two totally different people.
Right.
So if two people who grew up in the same room together can be completely different people, well, imagine how much different I am than a kid who grew up in my neighborhood 10 years, you know, after I did.
Right.
And his situation and all that other stuff. So I had to have those moments. And, like, that trophy moment was one of those moments. Okay. Where it was like, you know, damn, like, that's crazy. This is the first time he's ever got a trophy. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. Then, you know, you start to learn, like, man, a lot of these kids have never been further than Detroit. I learned that when we were, you know, going into the second season of basketball. Mm-hmm. And we started scheduling games in near Utica and near Clinton Township and in Albion and stuff. And we had a lot of kids who they've never been anywhere.
You'd be amazed at how many kids haven't been to Detroit, haven't been to the Motown Museum, haven't been to the Detroit Science Center. I know they done changed it to the Michigan Science Center, which I don't like it, but they haven't been to certain places. Hell, there's kids that ain't been to Greenfield Village, man.
And so,
I mean, yeah.
So from there, so we're so take it back to year one to keep us a little centered. So yeah, the basketball program is budding. We have one of the mentor programs going. I'm sorry, we're in year 2 now.
Okay.
That's when the My Two Dads era started.
Okay.
We had Dr. Edmondson and Weeks at the same time.
Okay.
Which was that was different because they never established like a head and co. It was just or head and assistant. It was co. So
okay. So wait a minute. So in my eyes, I always thought Dr. E was the head principal.
No,
I had heard of Weeks, but I didn't know.
No, it was the My Two Dads era. So like, and the thing is, if you didn't like what one dad said, you go to the other.
You just went to the other man. Yes, you can't do that, man.
And you definitely can't do that with kids, with teenagers.
Right.
Right. Each faction had their kids, the H Tech kids and the Roberto kids. And so, it was just, it was interesting.
So, and here's the thing. I wonder if that started the cracking of the top, the throne.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Because I don't know. These are things that I literally don't know.
People often forget in my journey who I was hired by.
Because you're brought in by Weeks, right?
Yes. And so people kind of when we get on in the story, they forget that that's who I was hired by. That's essentially, where the loyalty lied. And where, remember I was, after school and I was getting compensated, to do like the options program and stuff like that. So, it was good.
Right.
And so like, but the My Two Dads era, that changed the guy that I knew.
Okay.
And I think when that when you Ben is a superstar.
Mm-hmm.
He it is what it is. He comes into a place, he commands it. His presence is known. Like, I could only imagine being a newer principal and having to deal with something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Especially knowing, at some point we can't have 2 principals in this building because there's only so many kids and financially it makes no sense. And,
right.
Am I going to be uprooted? Am I going to have to go? Like, you start to ask yourself all those kind of questions because, it's tough to compete with that.
How did they justify that, though? How did they justify bringing Dr. E over from Roberto and keeping Weeks, or bringing Dr. E over? I mean, because they brought the student body over, right? I mean,
I think to remove either one would have been a bit too much at the time for the students.
Okay.
So like, I can understand in that matter of keeping both, but you knew that couldn't continue on for years to come. But
right.
We got lucky because Dr. E went on to become a superintendent.
Right.
And so that worked itself out. And maybe the intentions was that at some point somebody would apply and leave and go somewhere else. So
okay.
And it'll work itself out. But yeah, so we had that era, but while that was still it wasn't the most functional form of leadership, I was still able to just do my thing. And that's just kind of what it turned into. It turned into like my own little thing. Like,
right.
I was just doing my thing, go to one dad, go to the other dad. Somebody gonna give me the right answer. So I can go ahead and I can do this and I can do that. And so like, so yeah, like, so we're in year 2 and the basketball program is slightly successful. We go through the rec league. We end up losing in the championship. But it was a nice little 8-game season. It was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, as we start to move into the next year, I don't know how, like, I think because I went to Roberto and I remember like I was like, I remember playing these other alternative schools when we were at Roberto. We had a little
mm-hmm.
basketball team and we was doing that. And I was just wondering, like, man, does that exist? So I started looking for it and I found it. And,
okay.
It's the Michigan Alternative Athletic Association, so MAAA, Michigan Athletic Alternative Association. And so I started reaching out to the coaches, and they were like, "Yeah, come on, how many kids you got, all that other stuff." And from there, I started looking into building a schedule and creating a season. And so
this is all on your own still.
Yeah, this is on my own.
You don't need, okay. And I just want to basically frame this for people. None of this stuff came with your job description. This is all self-starting, self-motivated stuff that you saw because of you. I mean, it wasn't even like, somebody had started it, and when you were cleaning up somebody's old office, you're like, hey, I'm going to check this out. This was stuff that you dug your heels in and got started on your own. Were you ever given any type of pushback or, hey, what are you doing type of thing? Or did people just pretty much let you do your thing because they saw you were doing something positive? Was there ever any?
The pushback hadn't come yet. So the pushback wasn't there yet.
Okay.
I'll tell you when the pushback came.
Oh, no. Yeah, I'm here for it today. Yes, sir.
So the My Two Dads era ends, and Ben goes on be a superstar self, and we got Tyrone there. I think the problem, though, I think things were just a little fractured. You had two staffs that came from different places who kind of had some differing philosophies. And then,
so wait a minute, Will. They tried to merge Roberto and Pathway staff.
Yeah, so everything was merged. So like,
how dysfunctional is that though? Because you really don't need two of everything, right?
Well, this is ultimately the problem with how people view Black people. Black people are just interchangeable to some people, and it's
we're cogs. We're cogs, dude.
Yeah, we're not a monolith. This is the problem that they run into me. Like we're not a monolith. We're a very diverse people. And Black people, or a place that has a culture, a Black cultural background, because it's not saying that these places were completely 100% Black, but like these things are just interchangeable. Also, I just don't think they had great information on what Clemente was, and I think a lot of that was lost in Joe's later years into the Dr. E years. Like, like you would really have to go back and like chat with people who graduated from Clemente in the 90s and in the early 2000s to kind of get a grasp of what that place meant, what it was.
Right.
And I'm not saying it was perfect or this utopia, but damn, was it effective?
Yeah.
And like, so I just don't think people had the people who were making decisions had a great grasp on what that place meant and what it meant with it combining with this place.
Okay.
And a lot of times when people think, oh, we're going to help the Black kids, it's just like, let's hollow things out and make it easy. And that's not what Roberto was about. Roberto, when you got there, Roberto was the first time I had like 80% in 4 classes all at the same time. Because you had to. It was A, B, or E. So like,
I said if I had it to do all over again, and a place like Roberto was open, I would go there versus going to a traditional high school, because I probably would have ended up at the U. I might have ended up Ivy League. Who knows? Because I had what it took. I just didn't apply myself, and I knew that. My mother knew that. I never.
But what does that? Yeah. See, and so when we get into that, what does not apply yourself mean? That's my whole thing. It's like Roberto got things out of me that other places didn't.
Well, let me tell you this. Let's start back at Burns Park, and I'm going to get back on your side. In the 4th grade, I had a chance to be promoted to the 6th grade. My mother said no. But the reason they wanted me to do that was because, and it was solely because I was bothersome. I was bothering all the 4th graders doing my work, and so I'd finish my work and just start causing trouble. They put me down in the 6th grade class. This went on for several weeks, and I'm down there helping grade papers with the teacher because I could do 6th grade work. So I had an opportunity literally to go from 4th grade to 6th grade. My mother said no, because she felt like I'd be some type of freak, and she didn't want to see me going to junior high school at 10 years old. And it was crazy. So understanding, I got bored with school early on, and I knew how to manipulate, how to read books and how to do math problems, I knew all that basic stuff. But when it got into the higher courses, I knew how to skate by. I knew how to get a passing grade, whereas some kids were just flat out struggling. one of the things I didn't know is what I know now, and I'm going to talk to you about this: general track, college track. And I know that they don't speak probably a lot of times in alternative situations about college track courses, because hell, they're just trying to keep the kids afloat with general track courses. But you had kids in a mindset that if they did well enough on the level you were putting them on, they should have been able to go off to colleges, because you were doing something, if I'm not mistaken, it was like a junior college tour or a community college tour or something.
College tour.
Okay.
So that was the first grant that I won. The first grant that I had won. And so that was another thing. I started writing grants. Gosh, it starts to come together. So sorry.
You an uppity Negro. You up here supposed to be working the hallways and you writing grants. You an uppity Negro. Okay,
so I started writing grants, and I won a grant. And I had a great partner, Mazetta Deneen, and she like, we were like, yo, let's do this. Let's like put this stuff together. So the community college tour, one of the things that I always felt, may have been lacking, even if it was slightly, is, post, high school graduation, like interaction with kids. And so the community college tour was designed, to give our kids a more practical way of going away to college. That didn't require you to, necessarily enter to a 4-year program that was away from home, or, a little further, like maybe not out of state, but, further away from home. Mm-hmm. And, it might be overwhelming. And if you flunk out, because, and coming up, I've seen this happen to so many people. They get, their family is like, go to a 4-year, go to a 4-year, go to a 4-year. And you may not be ready for a 4-year, but at the same time, you don't want to go to Washington because, they feel it's like high school continued. And so they go away and then they flunk, and then now they can't really get to anywhere else. And then they've got the loan starting to bear down on them. And then it's just like, boom. So after that 1 year, college is done, because it's just so hard to get back into the groove. Mm-hmm. So I was like, dealing with our kids and, the situations that they come from, and, them getting over how they get over to Pathways. I was like, we need to make it a way for them to still have that experience of going away, but not necessarily overloading them with the 4-year program or the money that it costs. Because for most kids in that position, when you first get to college, a lot of kids get to college and they'll sign a loan for like 20 grand, knowing they ain't never ever seen 20 grand, never seen 30 grand, never seen 40 grand.
Right.
But here they are, 17, 18, putting their signatures on them papers for these type of loans. Mm-hmm. Never even seen that kind of money. That can be overwhelming, and the pressure can get to you. Mm-hmm. And so where the community college tour was built, we went and we saw community colleges all across Southern Michigan. Mm-hmm. So from as far west as Jackson College, well, at the time it was Jackson Community College, I believe it's Jackson College now, to Grand Rapids Community College and things in between. Kellogg Community College in Battle Creek, and we went to Lansing Community College, obviously in Lansing. Mm-hmm. And then we went to a site at Wayne County Community College, and we were just showing our kids like, there's other places for you to go, because when we would get there, we would do the tour, and then we would spend some time in the cities that we were in. Mm-hmm. So like the kids were finding, wow, Lansing is like right next to MSU. Like this is cool. Like we could go here, and then we can still participate in that MSU lifestyle, but for Lansing Community College prices. And same thing, Grand Rapids, Grand Valley is a little further out, but, you still have the city of Grand Rapids. And like I said, this travel thing, this is the first time a lot of our kids are getting out and seeing things. And remember, we got the Pathways kids, the kids that people allegedly say you can't take nowhere.
Right.
And see, when I tell you about the I wasn't scared part, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I felt that my kids could rise to the occasion. Mm-hmm. I give you this, you can rise. And even if you didn't rise, even if you did mess up, I'm going to take a chance on you again.
Right.
We're going to figure this out.
Right.
And so like we would go to these places and we would give them this exposure. And there was no grade requirement or anything like that. You signed up for the tour. We had enough money to pay. You know, you came and you came and you went to the tour. And you know, and I do that because, you know, if you always put a grade requirement on things, you know, you're going to eliminate a lot of the kids that really need to see this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went, you know, these kids showed up early in the morning to Pathways to get on a bus every day and go out to whichever community college we were going to that day.
Okay.
And this is during their spring break, during their time. They showed up and they came for 4 or 5 days. I can't remember which one. I think we may have stopped on Thursday, but I'm not exactly sure. But like, yeah, so we're getting these kids to get up, come out and go do this. And in turn, we actually learned so much about the community colleges and all the programs that they have for the kids, the 2+2s, the 3+1s.
Mm-hmm.
You go to community college for 2 years, you go to the other one for 2 years, you get a 4-year degree, or you go for 3, and then you go to the other 4-year for 1, and you get the degree from the 4-year. Like, that's game changers, especially for kids who do not have that type of money to, you know, to take on loans, or the generational wealth to cover a loan just in case something were to happen, or the connections to get that super nice job right out of college so you can pay your loans back. And so, like, we just learned so much. And not saying that Washington Community College, it's also a great college, but it was also nice to learn that there was more out there. So that if you did want to go the community college route, you still had options just like the people going the 4-year college route.
So you're doing this primarily by yourself. I mean, is it an actual program, or are you really just coming up with these things, implementing it, making sure that it's all good with the parents and this, that, and the other?
So, we definitely have field trips, permission slips, all that other good stuff.
Where's the administration on this? Why isn't that? Okay, so because what I know now, career resource centers, or they call them college resource? What do they call them now?
Career resource center.
Where was that? Like, was anybody running that, or did Pathways have that at the time?
Yeah, at the time, I can't even answer that question, honestly. I'm not exactly sure.
It sounds like you were that. Sounds like you. It sounds like you implemented what the Career Resource Center or College Resource Center should have been doing. Of course, if you're taking kids around to junior colleges, and you know, we'll hear all the time, you know, that there's the Black College tour, and you know, I've never really heard about PWI tours on a collective basis. I know people will take tours, but you're doing something that nobody else is doing. I haven't even heard about anybody doing this stuff at Huron, Pioneer, or Skyline, taking kids to college, you know, junior colleges, which is more likely for a lot of kids to end up nowadays than at a PWI or even a HBCU. So why wasn't this something that was being looked at as something that we should be spreading this around at all 4 campuses? Well, no, you've got 5 campuses, because you got community, you've got Huron, Pioneer, and Skyline. So why wasn't this something that was being picked up? I know people are talking at this point. So why wasn't it, or why do you think it might have not been something that was picked up and shared with the other institutions?
So we did have some, there's a lot of politics, and we did have some, I guess you would say, issues with leadership.
Okay.
So, I often say, like, a lot of times guys could have just sat back and just took credit for all the stuff that I was doing. And I would have let you have that. Like, it would have been like, look at the amazing things we're doing over here, because it's a we thing. And This is for the greater good of the kids. It's not a me thing.
Right.
And so, like, look at the amazing stuff we are doing at Pathways. I never had a problem with that being said.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you just sit back and relax, I'll make you look good. And because at the same time, as much as I like to do my own thing, I also like to take care of the people, who looked out for me and brought me to a platform. And I'm not going. That's what I'm about.
Right.
And so, like, we had already been having some issues because I wasn't in full agreement with how a lot of our kids were being treated in the building. We had this really toxic thing going on where you would egg a kid on, like, you would get into it with the kid and escalate it instead of diffusing it, and then the kid would get suspended. And like there were times where, you know, there was one particular time where that happened, and I called the kid back into the room because, you know, kids F this, blah blah blah, all this going off. And I was like, you got to come back in here. We got to sit down. Everybody needs to sit down in here, and we need to talk about this. We need to figure this out, because if every time he blows up and he leaves, there is nothing good is going to come from that. He will never know how to work through these issues.
Right. And
I also didn't like, because, you know, we know these kids. You know what buttons to push.
Right.
You know what buttons to push to make set a kid off.
Right.
And, you know, a lot of that was happening because you may not like the way a kid looked at you, or like the way a kid talked to you, you know, just little petty stuff like that, petty ego stuff like that. And, you know, I remember after I pulled that kid back, and then we hashed it out with his grandma in the room and everything. And we hashed it out. We got through the issue, and it was good. And so when that happened, I got pulled into the office like maybe a day later and basically told, you know, I was usurping somebody's decision. If they kick a kid out, then they kick a kid out, and that's what it is, and all this other stuff. So that's kind of where the tension began to build. And then there was also my association with Roberto, because I knew all the Roberto staff because I went to Roberto.
Okay.
And so like obviously I'm going to have a close relationship with the Roberto staff, because those are my people. Like,
so you had inherent backup. You had inherent backup with the Roberto staff from being a previous student as well as being an employee of the school system. Now I'm starting to see where your problems potentially started, because it wasn't really the Pathways people that they really didn't hold the control, because they were splitting time with the administration that had merged over from Roberto, and those people saw you in a different light. Whereas you're already sitting at Pathways when the merger happens, if I'm not mistaken, right? You were already. So when they come in, whatever they may have been feeling, it sounds like those feelings started to come out when they saw, oh, you got backup over here. And when you've got backup, you know, it gives a whole, because all of them talk. This is one thing that I do know. All the administration talk, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent. And if you're the subject, you were the subject of so many conversations behind the scenes, probably before it ended up getting back to you. That's really where the problem was, because you had backup with the Roberto people, and maybe you had some backup with some of the Pathways people, and there was the clashing of the guard, so to speak. And really, all you're trying to do is just make it right for the kids. You're not caring about none of the politics on either side. You're just trying to make it right for the kids. So I get that part.
And I also, you know, my baby brother went to Clemente too, so I had recent dealing as essentially as a parent with Roberto too. And don't get it wrong. Me and Dr. E had a fallout when he was at Scarlet. So when I first took my brother in, my brother was 13. He was at Scarlet. And we had a parent-teacher conference. I did not like the way Dr. E was speaking to me. And I said some choice words. And Dr. E was like, you know, what you say? And I was like, you heard what I said? And I stood up. And, you know, my sister, you know, get up on me and get me out the room to calm me down and everything. But, you know, we were going to the same barbershop at the time. And so like we would be in the shop and we would be sitting across from each other, just not even talking to each other.
Y'all mugging each other at the barbershop.
And so when my brother came to Clemente, Dr. E didn't let him in. He said, I need to talk to you. So he brought me in by myself without my brother, and we hashed it out. And that's why I will ultimately always have ultimate respect for Dr. E.
Okay.
It was like, he didn't have to come back from that. He held all the cards. He had all the power. He didn't have to do that. And he did it because why? It wasn't about him. It wasn't about me. It was about the kid. That trumped everything. And, you know, it was like, so that's the thing. So like relationships are rebuildable. You know, it just takes two people to get into a room and talk it out.
It's also about the long game too. You and him are both long gamers, Whereas a lot of people you deal with are not long game people. They're very, short game, short-sighted people.
And so, so when Dr. E did come over to Pathways, we did have a flourishing relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, I see she just wrote, I heard Dr. E can be a trip. So, hey, that's my guy, man. But
we know, we know, we good, we good with it.
We had a flourishing relationship, and the thing is, man, I ain't know about nothing in the background. I ain't know about what was going on, in those upper meetings or anything like that. I just knew Dr. E was solid with my siblings.
Mm-hmm.
We had that out. We hashed it out. We was good. I run through a wall for that man because, for what he did for my siblings. And like, and so it was, so that was good. And I don't know if that was perceived as a slight. Who knows?
Okay.
You can never tell when you're dealing with someone and their insecurities.
Right.
And, but back to so we get to the community college tour. So yes, so there is a little bit of friction going on at this point.
Okay.
So like, yes, these things were kind of suppressed and not really talked about.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so the community college tour happens. That's a success. And, we are now, so we've got the mentoring program going. We got the community college tour. We've got, I did Suited Up. So we would get into these rap sessions and Dr. E is also gone at this point. We're into year 3.
So between 2 and 3 is when Dr. E left. He left at the end of your second year at Pathways.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now is Weeks given full reigns now? He's the head.
Yeah, he's got full reins.
Okay.
Make sure that I'm doing this right. Because the first year, yeah. Then there was year 2. We had the Roberto, and then the first basketball team. No, that had to be year 3. So year 2 was the first basketball team.
Okay.
Year 3 was the championship. Okay, so we're in year 3. Gosh, woo.
And are you still? And this is something I want to clarify. This, the basketball team is Pathways basketball team.
Yeah.
But from what I know, you financed it. AAPS didn't finance it. Is that true?
So yeah, the time we had the big basketball team, when we became kind of real official.
When you were in the MAAA.
Yeah, we entered into the tournament.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was funding that all out of pocket. Yeah, I was paying for all of that. I was paying for transportation to the games. I bought the balls. I paid for the uniforms, or I got a friend to pay for something like. But there was no school funding. We built a 22 game season plus a tournament out of my pocket, and that that's like the so when you're like me, you don't have the credentials or whatever, you have to do, sometimes you got to do free stuff because you got to kind of prove yourself. And
I get it.
Yeah, it's like internships or whatever. You gotta prove yourself to show, like, look, I am good and trustworthy enough to do these things. Watch, see, look what I just did. And that was also the same year that I won another grant for us to do the Spanish immersion tour, which was in Chicago. And so I have a really strong traveling background, and I started to do researching on how travel affects education, and I started learning all these positive things about taking people out of their environments to other environments and how it helps with math, reading, and language. Because, like, how do you know distance if you've never taken that 4-hour drive to Chicago? People can tell you it's 4 hours, but it's one thing, or they can tell you it's 100. I don't know what is Chicago, 190 miles from here or something like that, or.
Oh no, it's way more than that. It's like 350.
Yeah, like they could tell you the amount of miles, 600 miles to Atlanta, but you don't really know that until you hopped into a car and you drove it. But I can see how that makes sense, how to because I visualize math when I'm doing math. And so, like, I can understand how my experiences in travel, would help me with math, and then also with reading and comprehension, being exposed to different cultures or different places, having to learn new ways, different things, all of that stuff. Like, all of these things play in. And so, like, I was like, okay, like, let's start to travel with these kids. Let's get these kids up out of here. Let's let them see some new stuff, because that way we get them exposed and they're going to want more. And so I won the grant for Chicago, and then another teacher won a grant for DC, to do one for DC, and so I helped them on the DC project, securing donations and helping to coordinate. So we were doing Chicago and DC at the same time. And so it was funny because leadership favored one trip over the other. And so, yeah. And so I had this concept. I was like, we should go to the churches and, ask for, donations from the churches to get these kids out of here. And so he goes before we could go to solicit donations for the DC trip. And so so it was stuff like that. Like it was just just strange things. But hey, ain't no thing to me. We all gonna win. I'm gonna figure out how to get the Chicago trip, one way or the other. And because we still had about $6,000 left to go.
Yeah.
And so
which you raised on your own. Okay. Because I do know that.
I did that. And,
okay.
And I'm still functionally running the basketball team out of my pocket. So that is the scope of all these things that I'm doing. Still got the mentor program going over at Bryant Community Center. So these things are happening. And I still do the evening work, to get to get the overtime pay. And so you gotta understand, I am flourishing in spite of certain things. Mm-hmm. And also me just as a person in general, my ambition is growing.
Okay.
And it's I have found something. I have found something that I am good at. And I can really do this. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the things is when people think you are in a certain place, they don't feel like you should have dreams. Mm-hmm. And what I started to discover was there was a litmus, there was how you treated me was kind of how you treat the kids. Mm-hmm. Because I don't have the credentials. So the kids come in, they don't have the credentials, mm-hmm. But I would work hard and, but if things weren't right, I would be like, yo, this isn't right. And so if kids come in, don't have the credentials, but they say something isn't right, you could either choose, hey, let me listen to this person or let me dismiss this person because who are they? And so these things all correlate. So it's when you dismiss me or what I do don't matter, I mean, I don't think it's that far-fetched that you would treat the kids the same way. And it's
they're mistreating the person who's helping the kids. So it's going to come down. It's going to drip down to the kids.
And so so I'm doing all of this and I'm flourishing and I'm starting to think, man, this could be big. Mm-hmm. And or it could be bigger. And and so I start taking things into my own hand, like going to seminars, getting training in restorative justice, going to see, these different life coaches, spending my own money to go to these conferences, starting to educate myself. And through that stuff, I'm reading all these different books. I started to become even more effective with how I dealt with the kids. And so and not to mention, remember, I'm doing maybe 12, 14 hours a day because I've got the mentoring program. So I go every now and then to Bryant to check on them. And then I come back and I do the autism program. And then after that, I do practice and so forth and so forth. So I'm not getting home till 11, 12 o'clock.
Was that with the school van?
Huh?
Was that with the school van?
No, I was using my own.
I know. I'm throwing these darts. I'm throwing these darts where I need to throw them right now because I'm about to come back in here.
Allow me to reintroduce myself.
I'm about to come in right now. I'm so hot because I already know some of this stuff, but I didn't know some of the stuff you just said. I literally had no idea that you had did this stuff on your own. until it was kind of brought to me. But then I said, well, wait a minute. How in the hell can Ann Arbor Public Schools allow for kids to be coached by an employee? The program, y'all, the Pathway Panthers, is the Panthers?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Pathway Panthers, that's an Ann Arbor Public School. You're going around playing other alternative school within the MHSAA, which is the
No,
MA.
It's MAAA. It's totally separate of MHSAA.
Okay, so the MHSAA is a separate entity.
Yes.
The MAA has nothing to do with it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but it's a real league. I mean, it's a real thing. It's statewide. Okay.
It's real.
Okay. So, how could that happen in Ann Arbor and them not say, we need to send X amount of dollars for this program that's going on here, knowing that the other things that are growing off of it, because it really centralized starting with the open gym. Then you moved it into some other different things, and you're obviously mentoring kids and talking to. How did they let this happen? Or has this even ever been brought up about all of these things that were going on that they weren't endorsing, but yet taking credit for?
I think that goes partially to the leadership because, it's like you said, they have these conversations. Everybody talks to everybody.
Absolutely.
And so if you're saying, oh, this guy is a wild card or he's a problem or he's disgruntled and all this other stuff, like, I never know how someone is going to interpret me in the district when they come to meet me because I don't know what they've heard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, so all I have is what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I put so much into what I do, because that's all I got. That's all I can show you is like, man, this is what I did.
Right.
I don't know what you heard, but this is what I do.
Right.
And so, because I don't have the credentials where I can be, just land on my feet somewhere else or something like that. Like, it's always been about what I do.
Right.
And so I don't know. The thing with acknowledge, I think I'm problematic in the sense that if you acknowledge the positive stuff that I do, then you also have to acknowledge the critical issues that I bring up. So it's a double-edged sword.
Okay.
And so I think it's just easier to just ignore everything.
Well, we've had a pretty positive this, that, and the other.
Because
42.
I don't just see things. I'm not just critical of things like, yo, this can be done better. Not only do I say this can be done better, I then do it better. So I'm not just sitting up here just telling people what they ain't or what this is deficient of or what that is deficient of. Like, I'm like, yo, like, we can be better at this, so maybe we should try this.
Okay.
And so even with the basketball team, like, I had to ask myself, could this be better? And so I found out it could. And so that's what I strive for. I made it better. And I did whatever I had to do. I pulled my resources. I leaned on my community so heavy to get me through that. And, when we have this basketball team, so we got all these things going on. We have this basketball team. We have these boys who have never been able to play organized basketball because of eligibility issues or attitude issues and all that other stuff. And so, like, we're doing it. So when we talk about this basketball program, we were good. I think at the time we were probably the second best team in the city out of all the high schools, period.
Wow.
I think Huron would have probably busted us up, but I think we had a shot at both Skyline and Pioneer.
Okay.
I remember scrimmaging Pioneer's JV, and we dropped like 100 points on them in like 25 minutes. So like we were good.
Okay.
And that's the thing. It's like, that whole league, they had a few ballers in there. Mm-hmm. And we were also the youngest team because remember, it's alternative programs. So like some of these teams had guys who were like 19, 20,
And you're bringing in kids that are 9th, 10th grade who are 15, 16.
I had a 15-year-old in my starting lineup on that championship team. So like, yeah, we were also younger. And but we're doing it, and we're going into these places. We're getting on a bus after school, that was the next year. We're hopping into vehicles, some driven by my sister, some driven by another teacher, and some driven by me. We're hopping to vehicles to go after school to drive all the way out to Mount Clemens And I don't know if you know Detroit traffic at about 4:30 p.m. trying to get to Mount Clemens.
Right.
It's a lot. To play a game at Mount Clemens and in a hostile environment, and that was a wonderful thing. We would get to places like Mount Clemens. We play this team called Mohegan, which is the alternative program out there, and Mount Clemens / Clinton Township. And man, they crowds would show up. Really? Show up. I mean, show up and show out. I mean, them places were definitely you couldn't hear nothing, and I don't know, like I took so much pride in that season because when we first started out, Shannon, we had nothing. We didn't have jerseys. We were writing names on T-shirts in whiteout.
This is an Ann Arbor Public Schools team, y'all. Ann Arbor Public Schools. They ain't gonna get off the hook on none of this.
I remember the first time, our first game, we showed up in Madison Heights to play Madison Prep, and he took one look at our team and our little janky outfits, and he was like, "Oh, we're gonna go easy on you guys tonight. Don't worry, man. I'm gonna call my guys off." And I was like, "Oh, okay, for real? Like, okay." And I mean, they beat us pretty good. They beat us by like 25. And I remember, we were leaving out. We're getting into them cars. And I remember one of my kids, he was so mad. And he looked at me and he was like, "Man, I want this." And he was like, "I can't believe this shit." He was like, like he was just going off. And he was so mad. But I saw that competitive fire. It was lit. Mm-hmm. And it was amazing to see that these kids who most of the time didn't get their hopes up or anything or didn't want much, were now wanting. And that made me want even more. So I'm on the phone. I'm calling my homeboys and stuff like, "Yo, man, we need uniforms. Like, we need bags. Like, we need somebody to help us buy Gatorade." And I'm pulling all my resources. I'm putting my own money into it. And I remember when the rec league started. So we were doing this league and the rec league at the same time.
Okay.
And we got uniforms from the rec because the rec they would sponsor maybe just little simple jerseys. Right. But I remember how much of a pick-me-up that was for our guys.
Absolutely.
Just to have those simple rec and ed jerseys.
Morale purposes only,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we went into the next game, and then I'm also working with Pioneer to give our kids a real gym for home court. So we're scheduling our home games at Pioneer wherever we can fit them in.
Nice.
So they're getting a real court, and I got to call my guys who are referees, and I'm paying them out of my pocket to ref. So,
whoa. It's an Ann Arbor Public School. You're playing the games at Pioneer. Why are you paying the officials?
Man, you got to do what you got to do to make the season happen. And so,
Fuck.
Yeah, so I'm paying the refs out of my own pocket. And, I'm just doing this, because I believe in these guys, and these guys believe in me. And so I'm going to do my best to come through. And we started off that season 0-7. We lost 7 straight games to open up that season. And then we won 14 straight before we got beat by the defending champions for the second time that year. But we won 14 straight. And so we're up there. We're 14-8. We are feeling ourselves. We came close to those guys. Like, we were up on them. For the first time we played them, they beat us by like 40. That time, we were up on them. We just lost it at the end. And we won, I think, our next like 3 or 4 games. And then we ran into them again. This time back again at their house. And same thing. We were up on them, came back, beat us. And but I can see the growth because the growth was through the disappointment. And that grew the desire. And once again, I would like to touch on these kids, it was crazy to see, going from I don't give a fuck about nothing, I don't care, I don't all this other stuff to now they're giving a fuck.
Where's your relationship at with the parents at this time? Because I know that parental support is low on kids that go to the other schools.
We didn't have a ton of parental support. We had some that would come out to games. Man, we had this one where I had a game. We had a game the night before, and then I went and checked out Pioneer at their, I think, divisionals or something. Mm-hmm. And 2 of this guy I knew that I grew up with, 2 of his boys played on my team. He didn't come to that game, but he was at the Pioneer game the next night. And so that'll give you an idea, what we dealing with parents and stuff. And these are two of these kids. One of them I had to buy shoes for.
Wait a minute. He didn't go to one kid's game, but he went to the other kid's game?
No, he had 2 sons on my team.
2 sons on your team.
He didn't come to our game, but he went to the Pioneer game, which he had no sons. And so, that game, so that when you talk about parent support, that's some of the stuff that we were dealing with. And, but, some of our parents did what they could. Some of them would come to games when they could. Mind you, our games are, the away games are really far, but, the Saturday games, some of the parents and families would come out and they would support. But we didn't have the support that these other places had. Like, I mean, their fans were coming out full force, like staff, parents, all that stuff. We didn't have that. And, it was just a lot for me to try and market the games too. Because remember, I'm essentially playing AD. I'm scheduling the games. I'm getting the transportation. I'm getting the rest together. I don't have assistant coaches. I don't have a trainer. So if a kid gets a sprained ankle or something, I got to go off my history of knowing. Or, we have a teacher, Emmy Kirksey, bless her, or my sister, and they would come out and, get them iced up, get it elevated and stuff like that. So I didn't have a staff.
So I'm going to have to stop you again, man. Because I'm really, I mean, I'm upset and I'm laughing to keep from being really pissed off and cussing a lot. I'm going to let you know. Because I'm learning a lot of this. I knew some of the stats. I had some of the bullet points, but they know you have an athletic team. And if you are the least bit concerned about any student athlete, you can send a student trainer, preferably a senior, who will probably more likely have a car that they can drive. I'm already upset that you don't have a vehicle. I mean, you need a 15-passenger van at best, to go to games. You didn't have access to that. You didn't have access to a trainer. You probably didn't have ice packs and all that stuff that you're going to get at a game, for a team to go into games. But this is still an Ann Arbor public school athletic program. This is where I don't understand. And I don't care if it's Edmondson, if it's Weeks, if it's Chanute, I don't care who it is. The fact that you were coming out of that school, how was this even allowed? Because you're not doing this as a renegade. This has all been approved. You got, like you said, permission slips. Did kids have to get physicals to play?
Yeah.
They had to go through the processes. Okay, so this is a legitimate situation as far as student athletics goes. How did it get to the point where you literally had no support? Because you need a medical staff, if anything, student trainer.
I'll say no, because our teachers, teachers were donating Gatorade and stuff like that. Teachers start chipping in. So our teachers were donating. Our teachers were working with our kids, like they began to put in, like I said, Emmy was coming to games. She was helping us get from A to B, and also, soliciting resources for us. So, and then my sister, some of the games I had to have my dad work the score table, keep the score. So, same thing with mom, getting everybody involved. So like, it was just, basically we were blocked out from leadership.
You got more Copelands working the game than you got faculty at Pathways. Okay.
And it was, because you think if you're a principal, you're going to advocate for this. Hey, my kids need resources, stuff like that. That was, so you can see, like, that's why I always tell people I don't have to explain, because I got the truth. And the truth was, we were out here, and if we're not getting any resource, what you think it is? Because if that was Joe Doolin, I'm pretty sure he would have been down knocking on Ballas's door like,
absolutely,
what's up?
Absolutely.
And so, but part of that, people's ego, man, ego is a powerful thing. Ego and pride. It'll make you cut your nose and spite your face. And so,
where is the pride in not making sure that your kids have every advantage possible to make sure they see? When you're in a position to be able to make sure that your kids have every opportunity to succeed, and you choose to sit on your hands, where is the pride in that, Will? I mean, that's just me. I don't know what everybody else is thinking, and don't even care. I'm 53. I don't care what anybody else thinks about this. If these kids are struggling to the point, and I'm going to ask you, did you have any kids on your basketball team that were in the GED program that came in off the street, or were these all Pathways kids?
Kids in the GED program who have been optioned to the program.
Say it one more time. I missed you. Okay. So you had kids that were off the street that you've now gotten back into the educational system, Ann Arbor Public Schools educational system. So they were -1. Then they go from -1 to back in. Now they're plus because they're also a part of extracurricular activities. There's absolutely no way that you can make me think that whatever happened was okay because you did it and teachers did it and your parents did it and your sister did it. Dude, this is absolutely wrong. Ann Arbor Public Schools, and it's unfortunate because the parents probably would have had to have put the pressure. You couldn't. They would have had to have put the pressure on Ann Arbor Public Schools to say, look, my kid's out here just like this kid over at Pioneer, just like this kid is over at Skyline, just like this. How come they're not getting the resources that these kids get? Are you saying that those programs are better? Because that's where you got to put the pressure on the admin that they're not doing their job. And you have to go ahead.
Tracy Louder did more for the program than anybody over at Pathways as far as leadership is concerned.
Former Pioneer principal, right? Yeah. Okay.
He especially in year 3. But like, opening up the gym and stuff like that, like that was him. And that was him communicating directly through my sister to me. And so it could be done. You just had to do it. But we're back in the season, and finally I get enough money I pay for the uniforms. And we bought the uniforms, and with the uniforms we bought warm-ups, all this other stuff. And there's this picture on my Facebook. It might be on my cover photo or not, but that was the first game we ever wore the uniforms. And it was amazing.
Were those the yellow and black ones?
Yeah, the black and yellow ones with the P on the front. It was so amazing to see them boys get their uniforms. And we made the state tournament, and we drive down there, and I see Mohegan pull up, the Mount Clemens School. Man, they got a full-on charter bus, 2 of them. One for the team, one for the families. And I was like, ain't no way we gonna have Mount Clemens showing up in buses and in Arbor Dome. Like,
right.
I mean, they came in full force. So it was like, and I what I loved about that, Matt Fetch was the guy. He was the coach at Mount Clemens. His name was Matt Fetch. He cared like I cared, and he knew how important that stuff was, and that this wasn't just an alternative league. Like, yeah, that's the one. This wasn't just an alternative league. Like, this was for real, and that's how he approached it. He coached like it was for real. It was for real.
Mm-hmm.
Real things are on the line, and so and so I saw him as inspiration. Like, I want what they got over there. They had the reversible uniforms too, that they could change to home and away colors and all that other stuff. Like, the nice gyms for us to play in. So like I totally took a lot from him and what he was establishing. And I wanted that for our guys too. And we got to that state tournament, which was hosted at Jackson, which was the state champions were hosting. So we're in there. We are in the state champions who've beaten us 3 times this season. We in their house for the state tournament.
Wow.
And it reads like a movie, man. Like, the morning I was having trouble getting a hold of some of my players, so they didn't all have phones and stuff like that. So, man, I'm out in West Willow knocking on this door looking for one of my guys. And you can hear all the locks and stuff. And they like, who is you? And I was like, yo, man, my name is Cope. Like, I'm looking for my kid, And they was like, man, we don't know you around here, bro. And like, you hear my kid in the back, like, hey, it's cool. And like, but that was the thing. Once again, that no fear. Like, I grew up out there. So like, I'm going to go find my kid. And it was 2 of them in there. And, we get them and we gone. We got to get to this tournament. and just going through those extra miles and make sure we got everybody to be a part of. And one of our kids we couldn't find at all. We thought he was supposed to be at his mom's. He got displaced somewhere else, and he was our starting point guard. And we had to leave. We had to go because we had to make the tournament.
Wow.
This boy found a way to get from Ann Arbor to Jackson and shows up about 5 minutes before the game. He said he done knocked on all the doors, all the people, and dialed everybody he knew, but he was gonna make this game. And it was just like, to see that, like the resourcefulness, the desire, like I hadn't seen that in a lot of these kids when I first came. And to see that then, like, I know people say it's like basketball, but like it becomes so much more than that, because these are like lessons, for life. And he figured out a way. When he got there, whoever he was with was like, yo, man, I need like $40 gas money, man. And I was like, whatever, here, take the gas money. Like, but and so like we're there, we're in this environment. Jackson's gym, one of their gyms is like the gym is on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
It's you can see in the picture, like the crowd is above and the gym is on the floor, and there's like a wall around. And I remember we're playing Mohegan in the semifinal, and you can hear like their fans are there and they're stumping on the floor. They're literally shaking the floor. It was so loud in there. It was so deafening. Like, this is the first time, any of my, like, these guys have ever been in these situations in a hostile environment with something on the line.
Mm-hmm.
And like, my guys responded so well. So well. I mean, they were absolutely amazing. And we ended up winning the semifinal game, sealed it with a couple free throws, iced it out onto the championship where we played Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And the defending champs, who we've lost to 3 times already this year. And we get Jackson. And, because that's who we wanted. We didn't want the other team. We wanted Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
We was ready this time. And, I mean, we come out, we playing with them. We firing on all cylinders. We done jumped out to a 10-point lead. And we done held that pretty much all the way through into the fourth quarter. Fourth quarter come, Jackson start making a run. And I remember like, oh shit, here it go again. Like, and their crowd is getting loud. I mean, really loud, because it's their hometown. And they coming back on us. It's about 2 minutes left. We got a 1-point lead, and a couple breaks come down. It's about a minute 13 left.
Mm-hmm.
One of my guys, the point guard, passes into the paint. It gets stolen. Guys got to open. I'm thinking he's gonna lay it up, and go up by 1. This man stops at the 3-point line. It hits a 3.
What?
We down by 2. 33 seconds left, and like
wow.
I had to call time. I saw timeout. I see my guys. These tough young men who you'd never see. Like they gonna fight anybody. They gonna stand up to anybody. They were crumbling. They were crying. They were holding each other. It was like the emotion that overtook them, like, because they just thought it was over because this has happened again. And they've got their jerseys over their faces because they're crying so much. And and I'm in the huddle, and I feel just as bad for them because they wanted this. And
right.
And like, I pull them in the huddle, man, and I got to give them the speech of all speeches, because I was like, I got to figure out how I'm gonna get these boys back. And
you got to give them the John Wooden, the John Thompson, the Bobby Knight. You got to give them everything.
Glory Road, Denzel Washington, like, and I'm just going through my mind, and I pull them in, and I can hear them sobbing and stuff, and they like, it's over, and all this other stuff, and I was like, we got 33 seconds left, and I told them, man, I want y'all to close your eyes, and I was like, just close them, everybody, close your eyes, and I was like, I want you to think about everything that you had to do to get here. I want you to think about every disappointment, every life issue you had, every time somebody didn't show up, every time your dad didn't come, every time your mother didn't come back home, every time you didn't eat, every time you didn't, you lost something, every time something was taken from you, every time, you got upset, every time, just all the disappointment. You know, one of them was like, damn, coach, like, they was like, how this help? And I was like, shut up, you know, and we go through it. And I'm like, keep your eyes closed. And I was like, just go through all these times. And I was like, y'all there? And everybody like, yeah, they there. And I was like, ain't none of that shit break you. And this won't either. And they all opened up and they looked at me. They looked at me and they was like, let's go. Like, and so, you know, we get out there and I draw up the play. The play is to go to a corner three for one of our best 3-point shooters. And because we either losing or we getting out of here.
Right.
And the play runs perfectly. Gets the ball to the corner. Jalico pump fakes. 2 defenders fly right by him. I'm thinking he's gonna pull up and shoot, but he made the right play. He passed it into the paint to Chris, who never uses the backboard, but this time he uses the backboard and he ties the game. About 2 seconds left, and you know they didn't have enough time to get the ball down the court and shoot, but he ties the game. And we come back to the huddle, and I was like, I want y'all to look over there, look at their bench. They arguing with the coach. One of them kicked his shoes off because he thought the game was over. Cheerleaders is disappointed. I was like, they done.
You got their ass
now.
now.
What we got to do.
Yeah.
Man, we went to overtime, scored the first 10 points, ended up winning by like 12.
Nice.
And, we took that championship home. And,
nice.
and I have to go through the story because, you know, it was so inspiring because it taught me a lot. You know, about
Cope, you know, most people don't know about this stuff, right? You do. I mean, in Ann Arbor, I mean, I've got people here in Ypsi. There's a couple people in Ann Arbor, but Smoke is New York. Frida's in Florida. She's from Ann Arbor. She knows your whole family and everything too. Shout out to my sister Riri. She's on the men. She came in early. She actually got here before the stream even got up. But anybody that's listening in right now, this is Will Copeland, and he's an Ann Arbor Public School employee. But he's so much more. He's been a mentor. He's been a guide. He's been a counselor to so many kids. And they've literally had campaigns when he's been removed from certain schools. And we're actually just having a discussion, you know, with the record button pressed right now. And he's talking about his journey at Pathways, which everybody knows that I've really been on and kind of updating some of the situations that have been happening. But where you are right now, you win that game. That's the championship game, correct?
Yeah, that's a championship.
You win that game, and you virtually did it by yourself. No disrespect or no slighting to anybody else around you. Because here's the thing: without you, it wouldn't have got done. It wouldn't have got done. Even if there was another coach, they wouldn't have been as resourceful as you are, and having that, you know, I can't stop, won't stop attitude. To the point where it was all about the kids. It never was about you. Because if it was about you, you'd have made you look good, but the kids would have never got that far. And being able to make that speech in the last seconds, that doesn't even happen. That doesn't even happen if you didn't take them from where they first started. And that was some of them being outcasted from school. And I don't like the term dropout. But they were outcasted from school because if you school age or school capable, I believe you need to be in school. I don't believe you should be considered a dropout. You ain't really a dropout unless you just quit. And you brought kids into the school system, into the program, got them right to the point where they could play, where, if I'm not mistaken, at Roberto, you could play for the other schools if you're grade. Yeah. Did you have kids, or was the program set up at Pathways ever to where they could have played for Pioneer, Huron, Skyline, or were they just?
We had a couple kids who could have played for the other schools.
Okay, but would they have been treated the same? See,
I don't know. You know, because that's the thing. I wouldn't want to go in those hypotheticals. Or, you know, talk about those coaches like that. I don't know. I do know that I had a knack for getting stuff out of kids who failed in other programs. Mm-hmm. So, like, you know, our starting point guard, you know, didn't do very well at the program he was at. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, he turned into quite a gamer under me. So like, so yeah, we had talent.
And you're still sitting on just you? You don't have an assistant yet?
No, I don't have an assistant. My sister was as closest to an assistant as you can get.
So that's actually unheard of for, I'm looking at, was there 6 up front? So you had 10, looks like 10, 11 kids maybe. 10
and
to 12
one of them
kids.
came in late, so he wasn't in this picture yet.
Oh no, that's 7. So that's 7. So that's 11. So you look like you got 13 faces on this picture. 13 players, 1 coach. And you're able to get them all under one uniform to be able to work together. Whereas we both know we see a whole bench load of coaches at all three schools, and sometimes they can't even keep their bench under control, let alone get it right on the court. So there's something
these
about
are the quote unquote the tough kids. And just to throw it in there, you know, that we beat that Madison Heights team on the way to the semifinals. And I remember exiting telling them, you know, thanks for going easy on us this time. And so don't get to I'm a competitive individual. I will hold on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You was waiting to make that comment. You was waiting to make that comment. And that type of thing right there, when you're locked in like that, those moments are just so much sweeter.
Yeah.
And that's year 3 now.
No, we are in year 3 because that will be my last year.
Okay.
What
happens?
Pathways, but it wouldn't be my last year coaching.
Okay. That's where I wanted to get to. You coached at Pathways, even though you weren't there on a daily basis anymore.
Essentially, that was a rough experience. Even though we made it to the finals, we ended up losing, but that was a rough experience. So wait, that was year. Oh, so there's another year because then I coached one more year. And we won the championship. Yep, because we were first place, second place, first place. So that was 3 years of that. And so the year before that, we had the Rec and Ed Ball the year before that. Okay, so I am in year 3 with the championship team.
Got it.
Okay, so yeah, that was my 3rd year at Pathways. My third.
When does basketball conclude for the season? When is the championship game? Is it right around now, like when normal March Madness would be
like
for
normal
kids?
March Madness time. I think it was a little bit later for us than the regular the MHSAA.
Okay.
So during that time, so remember we're still getting these trips together for Chicago and DC.
Yeah, we got so wrapped up in basketball, I forgot these are actual students that you're still working on extracurricular programs with on your own still. Do you have anybody that's jumped in and jumped on board on any of these things, or are you still pretty much the Lone Ranger on this type of stuff?
So the DC one was being handled by 2 other teachers, assistants, and then the Chicago was being, so the curriculum part of Chicago was being handled by Mrs. Deneen.
Okay.
You know, and I was getting all the funding together, and because it was a Spanish immersion, so. She was a Spanish teacher. We were getting that part together. I was getting logistics, getting hotels, how we were going to use transportation. So we we used Megabus, and then we got a discount from someone who worked at Marriott to book the hotels. So I was working it.
Dude, you was 3-card money and some shit, boy. You was yes. Well, ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
So I was going to make it happen, and so like, we hung a discount, nice discount. We were staying at the W. So I had these kids at the W in downtown Chicago.
So you done took kids who literally, most had probably never left Metro Detroit or been further than the city of Detroit. You done took them all around the state. Now they're staying at a 5-star hotel, downtown Chicago.
Yeah.
And this is all, I mean, and I'm not trying to slight anybody, but this is single-handed behavior here, Will. And I know you don't want to do this. I know this is me. Views of Will Copeland are not necessarily the views of Shannon McFall and Freedmen Media. So I'm going to talk my shit. I'm going to talk my shit right now. Dude, what you did is something that these kids will never forget. I don't care where any of them end up in life. I do, but I don't. They'll never forget this. And when they think that things are bleak, they'll remember those moments. They'll remember what you did to get them there. And you can't be humble on that. That's a resume builder, whether they want to speak on it, whether you want to speak on it, you got results based on your effort. And unfortunately, that's what not a lot of people are out here for anymore. They're just out for the clout. They want to make it look good. They want to make it smell good. They want to make it feel good. They just don't want to make it be good. And you were all about the results.
And one of the things is, as I was achieving a lot of this stuff through dysfunction and spite.
Mm-hmm.
So I can only imagine what it would have been like if I actually had leadership that was on my side and not constantly tampering with stuff like that. Like this was all being achieved through dysfunction and spite. Because as we get into it, because I would leave shortly after we returned from Chicago and be placed over at Pioneer. And
was this before the end of the school year?
It was before the end of the school year. They tore me away from them kids before the school year even ended.
See, that's why I wanted to kind of get to. You jumped the shark on me a little bit, so now I'm upset. So that trip happened.
So we had both DC and so we went to DC.
Okay.
We had another memorable moment in DC. I remember I had my group and we were running late, and we had to get to the bus because we had ventured too far out. And a lot of these kids, they've never been to DC. Like they just didn't know. Like we just out and about and we roaming. And so we had to rent bikes because I was like, we ain't gonna make it back on foot. So I rent like 10 bikes for these little bike things. And we, the kids ain't never really rode bikes in no city street. Like, so they don't understand, or if they do ride bikes in the street, it was in their neighborhood. So, they just ride. They don't understand having to be on a certain side of the road, obey the lights and stuff like that.
They don't realize they really are part of traffic. They're really actually part of traffic.
And I had to tell them, like, we got to make it back. So we on these bikes and, I was like, okay, when the light is red, you stop. When it's green, you go. You are just like the cars. So I remember we get to the first light and it's I'm in the front and then it's another staff member in the back. And we stop. I'll stop at the light. Then I see like 4 bikes shoot by me. And I'm like, y'all, like, but it was so fun. Like, getting them, we got them together. We got back to the bus on time and we put the bikes, we returned them into another stand that was close. Mm-hmm. But it was just like, they could have asked me like all through the rest of the trip, like, when we gonna ride bikes again? When we gonna ride bikes in the city again? And so, it was,
a lot of them kids probably didn't even have bikes at their home, Will.
And it was so beautiful. Like, it was just so beautiful. Yeah. And but while this was going on, so during our semifinal run in basketball, I was contacted by Paul DeAngelis about I guess he had just gotten to the district or something. I can't remember, but he was basically talking about he wanted to have a conversation about things that were going on at Pathways or what was happening to get himself updated. And so I've seen this movie before because this is Burns Park again.
Absolutely.
That's how it started. It starts with a reach out from leadership.
Absolutely.
And then, it's like, you go and have a talk, and then all of a sudden you're going on your way to another place. So I responded in the email like, look, man, I don't want to be transferred. And so I'm like, I don't want to talk. If I don't want to be punished, if I'm going to be honest about, things that happen here, I don't want to be punished with a transfer. So basically, if it results in a transfer, like, I don't want to do it. And so he gave me assurances that I wouldn't be transferred. It was just a conversation. And, we had the trips. I had the conversation with him. And then, I'm getting called back down to Ballas. And he's saying, you need to transfer. And they first gave me community. I didn't want community because there was already a CA there. And I figured that would probably lead to me being in some type of CA musical chair situation for the next year. Mm-hmm. But Pioneer actually had an opening.
Okay.
And so we contacted Pioneer and we got that together. And so I was being moved to Pioneer. So they're transferring that same day that he told me that I needed a transfer. So I was able to go back to the building and get my stuff. And he did not want me to tell the kids.
So the kids never even knew then?
Oh, they knew because one of the teachers rebelled and got on the PA and announced that it would be my last day at the school. But that's how those kids had to find out that I was leaving.
Wow.
And that type of population, with those type of kids, you snatch away, and this just shows you like the ineptness of making poor decisions at top levels. And it's like, when you're not in a building, because the first thing I would have did instead of just interviewing people, I would have just came and walked around the building for a few days.
Right.
Just to get a lay, just to see the environment, the temperament, and all that other stuff. Because if you had a real vision of what the building was like, you could have foreseen that removing me from the building was going to cause you a lot of issues.
Right.
Because I had everything going on. So so you pull me out of the building and you just place me somewhere else, and you don't give the kids no forewarning. So every traumatic thing that has happened to them in life, where people being snatched away, pulled away, whatever, or being ripped apart from different situations, that's what you communicated right there. Like, to not have the wherewithal to connect those two dots is something that I would never understand, something I would never get. And so, like, yeah, they pulled me from Pathways, and it sucked. Like, it just sucked because,
I mean, I'm looking at the kids. Before you go on, I want to know, where was the connection? Were you ever able to actually talk to the kids and tell them what happened?
Not formally. It was never formally addressed. It was just snatched away. And that's what led to the kids essentially rebelling and having protests.
Okay.
And the crazy part about it is, they tried to blame me for the protests.
What?
And so that's what bothers me. So, I think, because you're the first person who's ever asked me about any of this stuff. These things have happened, and I've just sat on it. From the investigation to the trans pathways things, like, people acknowledge that it exists. I mean, for a while I was being called the principal slayer.
Right.
But so they acknowledge that these things do exist and they have happened, but nobody ever really talks to me about it. So, like I said, I don't know what people think about me when they meet me, and so, yeah, like, it was just never discussed, and it wasn't discussed for the kids, and it also wasn't discussed for myself, because these things are traumatic too for an adult. Like,
right.
I'm in Pioneer, and it was like a daze, like, and I got my kids hitting me up on Facebook, they're texting me, they're calling me like, what's going on, like, and then you're like told, don't talk to them, and it's like,
who was telling them not to talk to you?
Oh, no. Take what Paul DeAngelis was telling me, not to talk to the kids.
Oh, really? So he actually told you to disengage from kids that you've been around for 3 years.
Not only that, but if you're telling them to protest, you need to stop them. They're trying to protest. You need to stop that. So, like, all these things. So you do these things, and then not only do you tell me to eat shit, but you want me to like it too.
Right.
And so, it's, make them stop, as if I'm this, and they give us way too much credit for being these puppet masters. But that right there tells me what you think about these kids as a whole, that these kids are not capable of standing up for themselves. Because, it's you telling them to do this, that, this, and this. Like, these kids are stupid, and they can't put two and two together that something ain't right. We had this guy doing all this stuff.
Kids know before we do, bro. They know before we do.
Exactly. Our kids are smart. They are intelligent. But for whatever reason, when Black kids start to come together and, trying to make a change, it always becomes, somebody else must be giving them the orders. And it's just like, so it's just, tell me how you really feel.
Right.
And And so basically you are communicating that's what you think of our kids, that they're just not smart enough to do this stuff. And that's kind of when I started to learn the tactic that's used, like the character trash, and then move you on. And like I said, I didn't really get a chance to respond to anything. I was just in shock, because that's what people do. Prior to me being transferred, Tyrone had also took away my overtime hours. So I was being financially disciplined too. And so like, you know,
okay, so what was the basis of that? Like, what was the need for you?
Because kids were in the building rebelling. They were like, yo, you are not doing a good job. We're calling you out on it. And it's like, everything is being blamed on me because the kids come to me, but they came to me because I put in the damn work.
Right.
Like, and that's what kills me. Like, if you're not going to be here every day, or you're going to be late when you get there, or you're not going to be present in the building, but then you have me and I'm here 12, 14 hours a day, and I got these programs, and we're doing field trips that I got for you, and we're doing this basketball and all this other stuff. Yes, the kids are going to respond better to me because I'm putting in the work.
Right.
And that always gets lost in all of this. Like, people, it's like the same stereotypical tropes when it comes to Black people and Black people accessing things. You either did it through manipulation, intimidation, some sort of trickery. Like, you do all those things to negate the actual work that was put in. Because if you negate the work, then nobody is asking you why you aren't putting in that much work.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where that all stimulates from. Even as we move on to the pioneer thing, like, and you read into that investigation, it's always like this manipulation thing and stuff. And that's like typical like stereotypes
right
of Black people. Like, they lean heavily into those tropes, intimidation and stuff like that. That's, you know, the tricky Black beast. Like, it's all of that stuff. So their internalized conflicts or racism or bigotry, they all begin to come out, but you see it in different forms. Kids not being smart enough to protest. It has to be someone helping them. Right. Mind you, I just been through a whole school year of getting these kids to different community colleges through the hoop, through mentoring programs. You'd think they might be smarter for that. So, like, you know, these things go hand in hand. Now that these kids have had something, they've seen something, they now understand, you know, the importance of advocating for themselves and things of that nature. And so, like, yeah, that's how my tenure at Pathways ended.
So it ended abruptly.
Yeah.
And I've shown a couple images here. The one, you know, it was an MLive heading, and basically they put it up there, you know, Pathways students protest losing staff member who made you feel like somebody. Now, I read the article. There could have definitely been more meat on that bone, but there would have definitely shown some at-fault behavior with the admin. But when you've got kids who said, you took away somebody who made us feel like somebody, I'm not sure exactly where the parents are at this point, but leadership, they didn't obviously get the blowback that they deserved. I never met Paul D. I submitted something to him when I was trying to coach back in 19, and he really actually never even responded. It was somebody named Shanta who worked for HR and whatever. We'll keep it moving. But there was a situation that he obviously came in way too late to the game and wasn't versed on what you had done, not only at Pathways, but at Burns Park, but at Dickin, and all of the other extracurricular stuff. Because for him to be so shallow and to be so, I'm actually going to call him stupid, but to be ignorant enough to take somebody, and you're just coming up, who wins a state championship and they don't have things in order? Because it wasn't like you weren't Steve Fisher. You didn't come in with a ready-made squad like Steve Fisher did when he won in 89 and then had to rebuild to where he ended up getting Jalen and Chris and all those other guys. You had to start from scratch, and you had started from scratch, and you did everything that you needed to do to get them to championship level. Then you overcame and won the championship. Who in their right mind comes in and separates? Because see, when I think of things like this, I go all the way back, baby. I go just like they did us back in the day when they used to separate the kids from the parents or separate the husbands from the wives on the plantation. You know good and well when you do that, it's a power trip. It ain't nothing but a power trip. And the second thing, you also know you're trying to seize control of the individual that you're cutting off.
Well, every time the district has acted, not in my best favor, I've always felt it's to show me that we call the shots.
Yes.
And that was one of those moments. And it sucked because no matter how you think you hurting me, you hurt those kids way worse.
Yeah.
A lot of my kids fell off after that. They were not satisfied, with the environment anymore, and it sucked because they just kind of just went away. And
trust me, brother, I love you. I love you. I don't even really know you, ain't met you, ain't dapped you up, hugged you, nothing. I love you. But goddamn it, you already know where my heart is in this. And I know that those kids were negatively affected. Second one, that they were told that you weren't going to be there anymore. I mean, obviously they made them pose for this picture for MLive, but this really doesn't explain it all. And this ain't all the kids. This ain't all the kids. This is just the kids that they have in this photo. You affected way more kids than this. And I'm not sure exactly how it got to the point, because you said you got transferred and you were at the next site the next day, right? Essentially, you didn't get a chance other than to just clean out your stuff. You had to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Paul D, and at this point, is Weeks still there, or has Maku gotten the helm at this point?
Weeks will leave later on in that summer.
Okay.
And so other thing, but so after I was switched, we lost a lot of talented staff too, because they had their reasons or whatever, but we had a little exodus of really talented staff members who left too. And then all of a sudden, towards the end of the summer, Weeks is now out. And so things that make you go, And so you did all of that just to totally just deconstruct the building. You lost top talent in your faculty. Your leadership is now turned over. But that's the thing, who cares about these kids, And that's what I prided myself on, was caring about these kids and what happens to these kids. But when you do something like that, you can only get away with that type of thing at a place like Pathways, because they are the most vulnerable population.
Yes.
You can't tell these kids that you care about them, and you put their entire school environment you just upend it.
Yeah.
Like they don't even matter. And so, so I'm over at Pioneer now, and I am dejected. I am sad. I am hurt. And one of the things that I hate is if you don't know me, people always try and make it out like, oh, you're disgruntled or something, along those lines. Once again, stereotypes.
Absolutely.
And I know I'm talented. Mm-hmm. What I was mostly disappointed with was that everything that I was given to Pathways now goes to the rich. The rich get richer.
Mm-hmm.
It now goes to Pioneer.
Mm-hmm.
And so a school that already has, a bunch of stuff going on now just gets even more, and Pathways gets nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what disappointed me more than anything, because trust me, ain't nobody gonna stop my work. But
right.
Because I'm gonna work wherever I'm at, and I'm put in, and I'm gonna give my all. But it was like KD joining the Warriors. You just gave the MVP over to another building.
Right. That's it.
And so that sucked, because I knew I had a strong feeling nobody was gonna pick up the stuff that I was doing, and I'm still right to this day, unfortunately. So Pathways is in total flux, and so those kids are now forgotten about again, and me enter over to Pioneer, and Pioneer was great because I was now there with my sister.
Mm-hmm.
So basically everything that I was doing at Pathways, I've just let's bring it over to Pioneer. And when I first got there, I was like, man, these old preppy Pioneer kids, what am I gonna do with these kids? And it took a minute, when I came back from the summer, because we had the end of the school year, and I came back in the summer, and I settled in a bit more. So the Pioneer thing, so it's crazy because like at one point in time, like we had a great relationship with the head principal there, Tracy Louder, an amazing relationship with Tracy. And so it's like but there is something about when you start making Black kids like truly educating them, like, and this isn't the Black kids who are going to make it. Like I often say, like, when people try and challenge this, say, my kids did well. And the thing is, my kid will do well too. Just like I did well, or did enough, like, because we have a certain support system. Right. So that's going to happen. What we aimed for was the kids who weren't doing well. Okay. Who didn't have that support system, who didn't have that community. Like, I didn't want my programs just being hogged up as resume builders for kids who were already there and were going to make it. Right. And so, it was really important to get those kids who fly under the radar, who don't do too well, to start getting them involved. And we had something amazing there because I think we probably were the first group to actually have all the Black kids, like representation of Black kids from all socioeconomic classes. Okay. And like that started to become very powerful because like we get over there and the first thing that happens is they give me a room. We named it the Blue Room. We went in there, we painted it blue, and this is where they wanted to dive in more into their restorative justice processes on how they do with kids and their discipline. And so I was like, fine, I'll do it. Because, I had a lot of training in restorative justice. Shout out to Belinda Doolin, who does a lot of that work, a lot of amazing work with that. So yeah, I had. What's her relationship to Joe? I believe daughter-in-law. Okay. So like, yeah, so I had a ton of restorative justice training. Remember I told you I was going to all those seminars and classes and stuff. So like, and there's like people they talk about doing restorative justice, but they never really do it right. And if you want to get trained right, Belinda is the person to go to, because everybody else, they try and do it and they try and speed through it. And one cool thing about being Black or a person of color, you learn a lot of patience and you learn that things aren't going to happen overnight. So when you're dealing with the behavior of a child or incident that occurred, one of my greatest things that I could tell, other educators is follow up. Follow up is so important as you work kids through their issues. Like a kid may not be ready on Tuesday, but they may be ready on Thursday. And they may be even more ready that Monday. And they may be further along that next Friday. And so that's why, it's when you're talking about restorative, sometimes that's what it is. Like, it's just a system of following up. But let me get back to the Blue Room. So we had the Blue Room, and then we were also, the St. Kofa just came into what is now known as the BSU. And we continued our tutoring, mentoring program at Bryan Community Center. We actually had a scavenger hunt for our students to meet all of these Ann Arbor officials. So they had to meet the mayor, the chief of police, the city council, the school board, the superintendent, and the assistant superintendent. So like, because we wanted Black kids to get familiar with the people who call the shots in their communities. Right. And we wanted to let them know that you're not too small for this. Right. Like these are people of the people. Like you can reach out to them and you can actually like talk to them. Right. And and that, man, that was so positive for them, because like meeting the mayor was so huge for a lot of our kids. They never would have thought they'd been able to just reach out and meet the mayor. And so like yeah, that we had these things going, but we were also, that was preparing our kids for advocacy. on how to advocate for yourself. And like because you know you need to know those things. And we had the blue room, and there's actually a sheet. The first year I got there, I think percentage of black kids was like it's in that investigation. It was really high though. It was like 62% or something like that. Or it was
is that around the 41, 42 page 40? Okay,
yeah.
I got that ready to share. Give me one quick second.
Yeah.
Hold on one quick second. I'm going the wrong way here. Give me 1 second. So talking about suspension rates.
Mm-hmm. So 2016-17 was the year that I came.
Right.
And then you see the sharp decline in black suspensions and suspensions in general in 2017-18.
Right.
And you go down, you see the decline in black suspensions of black kids in 18-19, which was the next year there. And then you look at 2019-20, and I look at the black and the multi, which is usually biracial kids. But
right.
That's when things went down. That's when
this is when COVID hit too.
It was right, but see, and so that year ended prematurely too. So look at the rate they were on, and that's when our kids were, you know, alleged the hostile environment.
Right.
And so these are their numbers. And so when I came, there was a dip in the suspensions. So like, and that's what I was there to do. Like, I was there to be that stopgap between the suspension and, you know, staying in school. So that's what the Blue Room was all about. It's all about restoration, getting these kids to focus on the actions that they did, how they harm people, how to stop these things from occurring, and to, you know, to make the offended party whole. And like,
right.
And it was a cool space. There's prior to that, Pioneer didn't really have like we use sheets, which was like, I mean, that's like prehistoric. We created a form, my sister and I, it was called it was the Blue Room form that you had to fill out in order to send the kids to the Blue Room. And so, you know, and it basically created data. And it's so funny because this form was adopted by other schools in the district. And so they still, I believe they still use them to this day at Huron and Skyline. But
let me ask you this, man.
Yeah.
I know Ann Arbor right now is somewhere between 6 to 8% Black Americans. Mm-hmm. I don't use the term person of color. I either use American freedmen or I'll say Black Americans to be concise. I don't use African American. It's a legal classification thing for me at this point. And I really am working towards reparative justice. You know, I mean, we need repair for our people, or our kids will not make it. Mm-hmm. We are destined to be economically done by 2053, and it could happen sooner with the way things are going. But let's just say right now, you're looking at these percentages, 54, 46. Let me go on, scroll a little bit more. 37, 61. Let's just stop at 61. And we know that was a flawed year dealing with COVID and everything like that. But if you only got 6 to 8% Black people that live in Ann Arbor, Michigan, how in the hell do you have 61% of the Black kids being suspended? How is that number so high?
Well,
because
it's the number, it's the percentage of the kids who are suspended, not overall. So it's just the kids who are suspended, that percentage. You know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, but there's so many more white kids. There's so many more Latino kids now. I mean, there's so many. Well, white Ann Arbor is about 70% white American. Now they can classify themselves as what?
I think we were still kicking at about 13 to 14% of Black kids in the building.
Okay. Yeah. So with that being said, you're at that position and say maybe 65 white American kids, and that's going to be German, that's going to be English, that's going to be, Jewish, whatever. So are we just not seeing the disproportionate levels? And is who puts that?
Somewhere in that investigation, it said because they were still lower than national levels, it was okay, I guess.
I was hoping you didn't say okay. Because that's what a lot of this stuff is now, Will. You know that when it's below national levels, it's all good. As long as we don't get to or exceed national levels, no, that's not good.
And so here's my thing as a alum of Ann Arbor, as a person who strives to be the best, like if you're going to have these taglines of, basically you're the best, inspirational, together, all this other stuff, then we got to live it and we got to strive really hard for it.
Right.
So below national average, I mean, that's cool, but let's fix it. Like, we got the resources. If any place got the resources to do it, we got the resources. Let's really do this.
Absolutely.
And if you're gonna say that's what you're about, then let's really do this. And so the report, I mean, I guess you can ask me and I can answer whatever I can. But the report it's a ton of like gossip. So it's just hard to refute things that weren't actually proven in fact.
Right.
So that's why, I never really, I don't know. I read it and, I've read it a couple times, and it was also really hard because my sister was not there to defend herself.
Right. God rest her soul.
Yes. That sucked. That was probably the suckiest part for me because, you can say whatever you want about me. That ain't never stopped, nothing. But, for my sister's legacy to be tarnished like that, everything that she gave to that district.
Mm-hmm.
And, I would love to see the actual notes and why they decided to prepare the report, how they prepared it. But like, it's so crazy to me because it's like, once again, we have to get into how they framed us in the report. So the report makes it look like we were just running amok like maniacs,
which we know ain't gonna happen in Ann Arbor.
Just punking people out, just doing whatever we wanted. Like, bro, when I came there, they gave me the room. They gave me the room and told me they wanted me to do this. Someone gave me an office. Like you don't get these things. I can't just come in here and be like, run this office.
They made it seem like you deboed your way up in there.
Like they gave me these things because of a purpose, because they wanted certain things to be worked on, which they felt that I could bring that to the table. And that's what, we did. Like we brought those things together. We worked on those things. And, so to make us seem like we were just in there just punking people and taking stuff, that is once again stereotypes. But I knew this was coming in that report because, that's the same stuff that happens to kids that we have issues with. We build up these huge files on them, and then when we meet them in front of their parents, we just totally dump everything on the parent right then, right now, and then harp on the kid's character and all this other stuff. And it's a tactic. It's a tactic that's constantly used. This is why I always implore parents, never come alone, always take notes, and always email. Don't cuss nobody out. That was the thing, though. Like, so we started with the Blue Room, and we were doing the restorative model for the kids and everything like that. And, we also had the BSU running. We were, so that's where it began. And when the data was accumulated at the end of the year and presented, data tells a story.
Mm-hmm.
And it told a story that a lot of people didn't want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And so from my perspective, that's where it began. And so like all of a sudden the next year, I'm no longer in the Blue Room, but I do get an office in the admin wing, right next to my sister. So I'm no longer responsible for collecting the data anymore. So
they take you out of the Blue Room. Is the Blue Room still in existence? Is there somebody?
It became the social worker's office.
What the fuck?
So they took that away. We went back to writing kids up on paper.
You gotta be kidding me, dude.
Kid you not. And so And so they harp on, so a lot of the report harps on, us having kids out of class and, excusing kids from class. And our program is so complex, so well run. Like, it sucks that people, I don't think they don't know. I just think they choose to ignore certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Shannon, we had students tutoring students after school. We had students mentoring elementary kids after school. We had middle school visits where we went and visited at Tap-In, and we had mentoring programs from high school students to Tap-In to help kids prepare for the adjustment to high school. We had so we have all these programs running with Black kids helping Black kids. We had BSU officers, so BSU officers were trained as almost like union stewards, and so what they would do is they would help file complaints. Like if a kid had a complaint about something, they about a teacher, about anyone, about any staff member or another student, because we had this little phase with kids saying the N-word and stuff like that. Like, the officers would take it down and bring it to administration's attention. And so like we had like this world going on inside of the building. And also, we would fundraise and we would throw parties, to also fundraise to pay for field trips.
Mm-hmm.
So like everything, that I was trying to do at Pathways, now I was able to start branching out and doing more here at Pioneer because, we had more resources.
Right.
And, we had the parties, so we were getting in. So we gave kids apparel. I'm not exactly sure. If you have any of our BSU stuff, any photos of that stuff or whatever. But
is that from Instagram?
Yeah, that symbol.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so we had, imagine 100 of those red hoodies being worn at the same time by Black kids all throughout the building. And
y'all gang at that point.
At the time, I was like, this is dope. But now, looking back, I'm like, man, that probably really intimidated them.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think of it. I didn't even think of it in that way because it was just like, they earned it. They raised the money. The hoodies were beautiful. The design were beautiful, and that's what we were looking at it as the beauty and the togetherness of our group. And we took the field trips, and we did things. We went and saw Black Panther. As a unit, and some of the teachers took issue with that because what does that have to? Why is that even associated with being educational? And I just you have to understand how representation matters.
Right.
A lot of our kids who weren't doing well started doing better because now they felt seen. They felt like persons. They felt like they mattered now. And that motion picture, though I don't agree with all of the things in there, not even close, but to see that many Black people and that expensive of a film being heroes, being an antagonist, just seeing all that Black on screen, that is huge.
Right.
That is huge. And it is historic. Like it's big for our folks. And so just because you don't understand how representation improves a child's school experience doesn't mean that it doesn't have value or worth.
Right.
And so
I'm on your IG page right now.
Yeah, so you can see our BSU symbol. If you go down, somebody's got a hoodie on. But we were operating. We had a dance team, a step team. We had all these things for our kids to gravitate towards. I even remember people taking issue with our tutoring program because they were like, "Well, we have a tutoring program here already." And
is this the picture here?
Yeah, so that's us.
Okay.
So some of our kids don't always feel comfortable in there. This is just what they've told us. So if the kids tell us something, we're like, all right, so let's create, because sometimes our kids speak a little bit of a different language. Sometimes our kids are more vulnerable to people who are more familiar to them. Right. Whatever the reasons, they didn't always feel the best in there, so they didn't always go. And so that's the one right there. That was actually designed by one of our students.
Wow. It's got that old death row effect to it.
That's exactly what.
Okay.
Yeah, those are our founding members.
Oh, wow.
the number ones. And so
let me ask you something about BSU, because I was a part of obviously BSU, and I was a member of student council. Is BSU now a after school only type activity? I remember getting out of class to go to BSU.
Some schools use it as after school. See, ours is called BSU, but it's like so much more. It's like
okay.
It's just crazy how much more it is. So when people hear BSU, they're like, oh yeah, I did that back in high school. It was cool. It's a little program. And it's like, yeah, but you kind of let the BSU thing fool you. It's actually like it's way more.
Okay.
And like from these different programs we had, to I mean, just looking at this photo, like the amount of work that is put into our group. We have whole productions. When we throw parties, it's a whole production from photo shoots.
I've read and seen videos, and I'm like, this isn't just where I've seen it minimized in some other levels and some other buildings. I won't talk about it, but this is something that I know has to be just stronger than some hour you meet after school every couple of weeks or whatever. This is a daily thing that's going on. Where I have a problem with it is, why don't they see this as the character builder that it is? Why doesn't the admin see that these are the things that these kids need to get to that next step? Because it's not going to be what the white kids need. It's not going to be what the Latino kids need. It's not going to be what the Asian kids need. But this specific group of kids in Ann Arbor, Black kids, because for the most part, if you're in Ann Arbor schools and we're at a 6 to 8% clip residence-wise, there's so many kids that live outside of the city of Ann Arbor that go to Ann Arbor public schools.
Mm-hmm.
So if they know that this is something that helps them get to that next level, why are they not putting every single thing behind it? I mean, that's where I have the problem, that I feel like they're shortchanging these kids and they're pushing resources everywhere else. It ain't like Ann Arbor Public Schools is broke. They just choose where they want to push resources.
Well, ultimately the problem is you couldn't control us. You can't control me. I'm pretty sure if I was a white dude, I would be getting mad props and crazy awards and acknowledgement. Oh, and I had a couple awards back at Pathways. We didn't put that up. We skipped past that. But so I was getting more acknowledgement from outside programs than what I was from the actual district.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and I think that ultimately becomes the thing, and remember, when you start making, essentially more intelligent Black kids, they start calling things out. And I mean, rightfully so. And I would even tell my kids, if you feel wrong by me, this is what the officers is for. They can bring up a report on me too.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody is above this.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they position it in the report is that we're anti-teacher. And I'm like, man, you know how many times I was called into a classroom to help facilitate the classroom, to keep kids,
How could you be anti-teacher, man? Why would you be working at the school?
That's what they frame it as, is this anti-teacher thing. And it's just because I even had to tell my significant other, it's not that a lot of people like me. It's just the loudest people may not care for me that much. And so it's so crazy, but it's, once again, it's the same old trope, the tired narratives. When you try to make something negative, you make it, what do you make? You make it anti-establishment and, problematic and disgruntled. It's the same thing. The thing is, if the establishment never bothered us, we will be flourishing like crazy. BSU does not ask we don't ask the district for money. We make our own money. We raise our own funds. We're not a charity. We're not Black people begging you, please, sir, can we have some more? We have established a brand and a functioning system where we can support our own selves. So that's why when they get into this, this attitude of, disgruntledness or, because, disgruntledness, jealousy, envy always comes from a position of lacking.
Mm-hmm.
We don't lack.
Right.
We don't lack. We don't need we don't need anything from you. Because we don't lack. And so that's why it's always comical to me when people try and give me that approach of, oh, you got a problem with this person or something it is just I don't have a problem with someone that I'm better at the job than.
And you're not going to be disgruntled until you have somebody come in and disrupt your flow of things. You don't have to be disgruntled when you're getting everything that you want.
I don't have to be disgruntled. Like even doing this interview, like I don't have to be disgruntled because I just don't. I'm still employed.
Right.
We still do our program. Like this, it's just crazy. The program, it's growing. I've even added some post education things for our kids, to kind of get back to my Pathways kids who got lost. Like, Saturday, or a couple Saturdays ago, I hosted a bunch of different master tradesmen from around the state to come in and, talk to, my kids who graduated, 6-7 years ago, who, are trying to find their direction in their place right now.
Mm-hmm.
So and these are things that, that I just do because they need to be done.
Right.
And, one of the big things, I hate talking about my sister passing because it is just it's traumatic. That's my best friend and best friend in the world. Somebody, I know her from, that was my beginning. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I would like to highlight on is how the district did not pull punches. When that report went up, not only did that report go up, I was never able to get the belongings of my sister from her office. Her stuff went up for grabs and it's gone now.
Excuse me?
Yes, this happened.
Y'all worked in the same building.
I know. So I took leave, for a minute after, she passed away. So I was never able to go get her belongings. They were put up for grabs. The only thing I have from her office was her microwave. And that was because when I came to school earlier this year, I saw that it was put outside of a room and it had trash on it. They actively still use some of the shelving that was in her room in another office in the room. I've seen it. I also had, during this period, I had my first child.
Incidentally, she let me know that was her baby that designed that BSU thing.
Yeah.
And she just hit me.
Leave, right? I took leave for my first child. So now I've had my sister die and I've had my first child within, 18 months of each other. They wrote me up for excessive absences. And then HR sends me a letter later on after I get written up for having excessive absences. That they had been shorting me my time the past couple of years, the amount of sick time that I had.
What?
And so, and it's just like, so when I say they pulled no punches, they just kept coming and they didn't even care about me as an employee, care about me enough to be like, are you straight? Are you okay? This dramatic thing has happened to you as an employee, as that being your sister and her being an employee of this district. Like, what can
y'all was co-workers, y'all were colleagues, y'all worked in the same facility.
None of that stuff happened. So that just goes to show you where they were at with us and where they probably still are. And it's just through all of that, there's no way in hell. I'm sorry, no matter how much I didn't like you, if your sibling died on the job or worked here and died, there's just certain ways I'm a care for you. Even if I didn't too much care for you, I'm a work hard to if we had a beef, I'm a squash it, something along those lines, because that's major. My sister didn't just die. I resuscitated her. I was there. I was in the moment. I brought her back. Wow. And it was really too late. So yeah, so this is what I'm processing. But lucky for me, my mama ain't raised no quitter. My sister ain't raised no bitch. And my daddy, ain't raised nobody. He ain't never raised me to stop fighting.
No.
And so,
ain't none of that in y'all blood. That's what I'm saying. Y'all
through all of that, one of the things I did is when my sister died, and my mom even called it, she looked at me and she said, "Baby, they gonna come for you because they think you weak." they're going to come for you. She was like, you need to get your army. And I ain't never been more productive than what I was from October 2020 to now. Because you can't dispute me now. I'm doing shit y'all ain't never seen.
Well, let me ask you something.
Because I'm getting into my feels right now because how they handle my sister passing was some of the foulest things I ever seen. So that's when I do get angry.
Yeah,
but I get angry and I ain't complain. I got productive. Boy, you ain't got nobody in this district getting passports for poor black kids, getting kids out of Pine Lake, West Willow, High Cone, Stony Brook, Southside, getting them to other countries and stuff like that. Ain't nobody doing that, and it's on purpose. I went hard on purpose, so you couldn't dispute me. So they can say whatever, they can tell their homies, whoever they roll with, whatever they want. But we know what's going on. You see that Instagram page, and I hope you spread that to all your followers. You see all that production. You see all of that. Because that was my grief. It was my production. And that was my army to get my people behind me and get my production. And we go and we move forward. So now you can't dispute it. To outwork everybody. And that's how I responded. And
Did you ever get this? Did you ever get this from your mom or your dad? Because this is an old school term. You got to do things twice as good.
Yeah, I've heard that, and I think is I hate it.
But I always hated it too. But I'm just saying, what you've done, you've done things twice as good or twice as efficient, and not gotten any credit. Then they try to destroy you. Anytime you disrespect someone with what they've done, with the transfer, with your sister, with the sliding of the access to resources and things like that for your kids, not for you. You was making it happen out your pocket and using your collective to get, things right. It's made you stronger. You've done things twice, 3 times, maybe 4 times as good. And it ain't to prove anybody wrong. It's just to make things right for the kids. This is why you can't stop. This is why you can't be ever in a position to where they can stop you based on a level of inactivity. They gave you, what they do, write you up for being absent too much? What they do? I mean, what type of reprimand came from having too many absences with having a child and losing your sister all in the same time frame? Who wrote that shit? Because you got to be a heartless motherfucker. And this is just me. You got to be a heartless motherfucker too.
You think? And at the beginning of the year, we get this speech talking about you got to take care of your mental and you need time. You can take your time. But damn, bro, I just went through the death of my best friend and the birth of my first child, and I'm getting written up for absences. In the grand scheme of things, that's the least thing you should be worried about me about.
Yeah.
But I got written up. And you see that page, you see all that stuff that I do. And I'm getting written up. Not disciplinary related, not because I don't cut somebody out or no stuff like that. Because I need time.
Real shit. You know why you got wrote up? Because you was doing too much shit. And with your absence, you create a crater. Because now those things aren't being done.
Oh, no. See, that's the thing. Our organization functions so efficiently. I don't have to be there. The kids are that well trained. They are that well trained.
What the hell was the problem?
I believe it was spite. Because I don't think you do that to anybody else. Like I said, if I'm someone else, especially if I'm a white person, I don't think you do that. I don't think you dare write up someone who's just lost someone like that, who's having their child. You don't write them up for attendance. It's not like I was getting paid. I took the time off without pay.
Right.
It's not like I'm asking y'all for money. Like I said, when they talk about, the black community doesn't do well with mental health and all this other stuff, this is why. Because they don't give us the space. There's no one, the amount of strength you have to come back from what I had to come back from, and to still be functional. Without, I don't have any breakdowns at work. I ain't in the halls crying. I ain't, going off on folks like that. None of that stuff. So like, so to be written, it was, it was another one of those slaps in the face, but cool. It's cool because I'm not going off on that because I know what I do. I know what I'm about and I know what I've done. But that just gives y'all, I'm just giving that to y'all so y'all can get an idea of what a Black person who does a bunch of stuff for Black kids has to deal with in that environment. The pettiness.
I've been hearing about this for years.
The marginalization, being treated like you don't exist.
Right.
And I always say to that, if they will do me like that, imagine what they do to your kids who don't fit into their cookie cutter algorithm. So if they'll do me like that, an adult, imagine what they're doing to your kids. And so like that's always the question, that's what I bring. Like, could you imagine, like, if I'm being treated like that, don't tell them what's going on with your kid. And like, which brings me back to the whole pathways thing and where they're at now. We had, while I was at Pioneer, I still did some coaching over at Pathways. And so the third year when we were runner-ups, there was just things about the team that I didn't like. And it was more so the culture of the team. Because I was no longer in the building, I couldn't really see what the kids were doing. Mm-hmm. And whatever was going on in that building was trickling into my practices. And I didn't like that. And so I even offered to let me come over here for like a half a day to help y'all establish some culture. And the thing is, I'm asking you to let me help you. And then they just take it as an insult because who are you to help us? And that's what bothers me too. Like, if somebody is better at something than I am, or they can do something, they got a proven history of it. I have no qualms with letting them folks come over, with letting them folks help me. I have no issue with it. But it was like almost like they just took it as an insult. And I'm over here trying to offer you genuine help because I know what it takes to build a culture. But it comes off, I guess you feel insulted by it. So that's a no-go. And so so that year I was paid. They gave me $3,500 to do the season. And they provided us with bus transportation. And so it was what it was, but $35. Like, I did the math about how all the hours I was coaching and doing games. It mounted up to probably about $9 an hour. And I think Pioneer's head coach gets like $6,000 or something like that. And I'm not Pioneer, but I'm booking the games, I'm booking the refs. Even though you're paying for the buses, I still got to book the buses.
Pioneer's coaches don't do all that. There's a whole athletic office
that does that. They have an athletic director for that.
Right.
Paid quite a bit of money. And so not only that, I wasn't getting a lot of participation from the leadership at the building. And why is Tracy Louder buying the uniforms for the boys? And I'm like, we need to do fundraising. We need to start at the beginning of the year. Because I've already got the blueprint going on at Pioneer with the BSU, how we're raising funds and things like that. So we need to do this over here. Like, we need to start early. So I'm like, we need to get in line, start this early, get the fundraising so we can get them shoes, so we can get them uniforms, all this other stuff. And it's like, none of that stuff is happening. And then I'm asking for key access to the building. Because when we get home from games, it's late. We're in January. It's late at night. They wouldn't give me key access to the building.
What?
Yeah, so we're sitting out in January, 11 o'clock at night in the damn cold.
Waiting for parents to show up.
Yes, waiting for parents or whoever's coming to pick you up. So now I had to bring enough people, family members or friends or whatever, with cars so that we could sit in the cars and wait after the games. So, we're loading up people in the cars. And so, it was just another one of those things. And so that season came, we went runner-up in the championship, and our kids had a total meltdown. We had one kid trying to fight the other team and stuff. It was bad. And it felt like that. It felt like I barely had like control all year. But it was, and I knew it was because I'm not in the building.
I was going to say you're an off-site coach now, which is a totally different diet.
It's different now. So everything that I hear is like secondhand information. So like we be headed out to a game and they be like, oh, such and such didn't come to school today, so I don't think they should play. And I'm just like, yo, you couldn't communicate this to me when they didn't show up for third hour, when they didn't show up for second, So even then I could have been like, okay, let me call and see if and get them to come to school.
Right.
So it would be stuff like that. And it was just utter chaos. It was a shit show. And we still managed to finish second.
At this point now, you're at Pioneer, you're coaching at Pathways.
I'm coaching and I'm doing BSU, and I'm taking away from my BSU to be over here coaching the kids. And then I offer them, I'll come over there and work over there. That doesn't happen. They're under this is under the new management that's mostly there now. And
I like how you put that, management. I like that.
And so like
I don't think they're managing shit. But anyways.
So year 3 comes, or the next year comes, and coaching the team again, same issues. Like not getting up for the sponsorship. So we're wearing the same uniforms that we wore the year before. Everything is just hand me down from the year before because we haven't raised any money, because nobody's trying to work with me to get money over there to raise for the kids. And the thing is, I'm not doing the whole paying for things out of my pocket anymore. I'm not doing that anymore. I did it once. I'm not doing it again. And I think, sometimes when you do that, they kind of start expecting that from you over and over again. But I'm not doing that. So
but you did it to show improve, though. You did it to show improve. And there should have been a direct connection. See, I know you're not saying this. I'm saying this. And I'm saying it to anybody because I've done it, bro. And I'm literally trying to structure a nonprofit now.
I'm not asking another building principal to pay for our stuff either.
Exactly.
But like,
so Louder was paying for Pathways stuff?
Yes.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. And so I was like, I'm not asking him to do that either. And
wow.
And so third year comes and we end up winning the championship.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I'm just like, but we won, but I was like done. I was done. Things over there were too dysfunctional. I would have kids quit on me, and then come back and then quit and then come back. And I know, and they were doing that at the practices because that's what they did in the building.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, things could just be better than this. And I was so mentally fried. And then also my other program is suffering to come over here and do this, where I can't even get keys to the building. So I can't unlock the gym when I come to practice. I can't get into the building without someone buzzing me in. Like, so, if the custodian locked the bathroom at night, we got to go find them because I don't got no keys. So, just
I've never even heard of that in Ann Arbor. See, I know people that have been coaches for years, probably going on 30 years, if not 30 plus. They've always had building access. How is this not something that you didn't have? And now we're talking year 4?
And so
year 4, year 5?
So the next year I was like, I'm not doing it without a without a program. Without a program. Like, we need to start this in like August to get built up. And so then that's when they, it became, oh, I'm upset because they won't let me work there, some other stuff. So like, it's just whatever they choose to paint it as. But in reality, it was like, I can't keep flying by the seat of my pants. I got this other budding organization that's doing really well. And I'm over here in this dysfunction. It is just absolute dysfunction. It is draining me. And it's like, and like I said, like the behaviors that the kids were displaying and stuff, some of that stuff was crazy.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like, I can't go through another year of this. On top of that, it's not like I have assistant coaches, training staff. It's not like they're paying me much anyway. And like, yeah, so I was done. But what I did still offer was having BSU over there. And so
I heard they're paying people now though to do the same thing that you were doing that they wouldn't pay you for.
But what are they paying them to do what? Because what is actually happening over there?
Well, I heard they're paying the PE teacher for the team and all that now.
Yeah, and you know,
but I mean, here's my thing. This is just
it's a lot different from the team. So that's the other thing. It's like, and bless his heart. I mean, he's doing the best.
I throw it out there because that means they could have did it when you were doing it too.
Yeah.
If they're doing it now, Will, they could have did it before. That's somebody pulling the string and really trying to yank your chain. See, that's the problem here. Somebody was pulling the string to make sure you didn't get compensated. Now they're ensuring somebody compensation, and they're not doing anywhere near what you did.
I eventually got compensated. It's just I had to fight like hell to get it. And so, you know,
well, like you said, it came out to what, about $9 an hour? Not to say that you were doing it for the money, but look how long you had to fight. The mental anguish alone wasn't worth that. It wasn't worth it.
Which is true. And
I'd rather not take your money, because now you're going to play it off like it's a handout. You know, just the way I can knock people straight in the dirt when they want to talk about reparations and why we don't need it and deserve it, this, that, and the other. I can absolutely always trump anybody's argument on reparations. You had their argument trumped, but they were insistent on not giving you money for a certain reason. And they know. We don't know. I can speculate, but we don't know. You can speculate, but we don't know, because it's never been spoken. Because now they're doing it right now. And it's what, the gym teacher? The gym teacher's now the coach or something?
I believe, but I'm not exactly sure. I think he's still there. And I don't want to say nothing bad about him, because
dude, the views of Freedmen Media are not the views of Will Copeland. Yeah, y'all better not mess with this dude. I'll be up at Dallas on the next day.
Man, what more can they do with me? They shitted on my sister. There's nothing else they could do to me that will hurt me. Absolutely nothing. So that's why I ain't even concerned about that. Like,
I am, because I'm not trying to cost another brother a job, an opportunity.
I'm all right.
I wanted this to be your truth.
I made sure that I will always be all right outside of there, and I'm doing very good. My sister left me with some good hands.
Good.
She took care of her baby brother, and her baby brother done took that and flipped it into a whole business. He's all right.
I know you got a good woman. You got a new baby, but you need peace, bro. You need peace.
My peace is the money that I make now, so I'm fine. So
there you go. There you go.
Because that was always, that's always the hanging point with them, is that, oh, you're upset because these people are doing better than you. But what happens when you're doing better than them? Because please believe you ain't getting these kids out the country without some type of connections and well, not even kids. They become grown. They're grown adults at that point, because it doesn't happen until after graduation.
Right.
But you don't start plugging in at that level unless you got some good things going for you. And so that's my whole thing. It's like that's why I would like to dispel all that disgruntled stuff and all that other stuff. Like,
right.
I mean, what they did to my sister was foul, but that's between, the people who are a part of that, who spoke on that stuff. Because even if you look at that report, you see a lot of mud slinging, but you know who ain't slinging mud? This guy.
See that, and that's the thing. Has that report ever had a public forum where they?
No, and that was another thing that I took issue with. You put these people back in the building together, and this report is out with people speaking very unkindly of other people and their family members, and there's no intervention, there's no mediation. We just act like this didn't happen or it doesn't exist.
So they just ran this report, and that was
it.
And
then we just come to work the next day.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Yep.
they put this out there. You see you tomorrow.
Yep. So, because it's in print now. Like, I see everything everybody's saying. It's in print.
Right.
And
right.
But like I said, I just got to work. I mean, it only brought to light what I knew was being said behind my back, or what I had an idea, because, I know almost everybody in that district. And so, people would tell you that certain things are being said, and, you never had any proof, but, the investigation, I was like, oh, okay. So it's just confirmation.
Okay.
And so it ain't no sweat off my chest. Like, it is what it is. Still being productive, still being featured on the district website, because our program is that cold. And like
and see, that's the will I need right there. That will, I need that attitude to be able to come out with all the stuff that you're doing. Dude, you are an entity. You are a commodity. You are something that these kids, if they don't have you, what do they have? See, there's like, sometimes you be up here and then somebody leaves, you drop down here. No, if you leave, Will, they're done. They're done. And they know that. But what they've done so far, like you said, if they didn't break you with what they've already done, because I know I'm raising holy hell, my sister's personal effects, and you don't know if somebody took them home, if somebody threw them away, if the custodian just came through and just swept them out. You don't know anything, but they should have been left to you. Whatever room, wherever space that she occupied, I'm sure that did not have to be compromised at all until you got back on the grounds and they say, hey, your sister's stuff's still down there. Take your time, but here's the key to the office and let it go. Why did they have to take it upon themselves to remove her items without your knowledge? Because I won't even say approval.
Fine, but the family, like, the whole family, like.
Oh, that's the thing. It ain't like it's just got to be you, even though your guys are coworkers. They know your whole family. You're on the register. They can just look up at somebody else in AAPS under Copeland. Dude, her stuff is here. It didn't even have to be you. That's how you know they were wrong. That's how you know there was hate there. There was hate that was done in that. And I'm saying that. You're not saying that, but I know that there was hate there. My stepfather and my mother died 59 days apart. The two people that raised me, not my biological, my step. My program director at the radio station I was working at, Smooth Jazz On Air, called me and asked me when I was going to be back to work. 6 days after my mother died. And he knew she died 59 days after my stepfather. I had already had to take a few days off for him. Really, I ended up taking like a week to get my arms straight. But then my mother just died. And you asked me, when am I coming back to work? I knew at that point, I was just a cog. I was just a cog. At 28 years old, I knew they only looked at me as a cog. And because I had done some decent things already in my life, I figured, okay, I'm going to run this out. But I didn't even have the same fervor to be in broadcasting at that time. My voice was nowhere near as strong when I was 28 as it is when I'm 53, just based on the fact that I lost to two people who really put me where I was. Mm-hmm. And that's for you. Your sister, I'm sure she provided much backbone when y'all was working together. You've got your family dynamic. I get it. But like you said, that's your best friend. She say something, you finish it. She crack a joke, you the first one to laugh because you got it before she actually finished the joke. Dude, you lose somebody like that in your life and you don't even get to properly grieve that. It does something to a man. And weaker individuals would have did other things, and we know this. Weaker individuals do way more for less things. To not lose a family member, somebody might lose their spouse. They'll come to work the next day and check the whole facility out. It's happened. It happens now. What you've done is, it's nothing short of remarkable. Trust me. Because you've done it with such minimal resources and maximal effort. Dude, people give up. They give up before they even get started now. I know for a fact you've worked right along with people who have not only been coaches and athletes in the Ann Arbor public school system, and they've chosen to lift finger one for your program or any program, really. And they came up in the system. See, I don't have a problem with transients, Will. Mm-hmm. Transients come into the town, do their thing, and then maybe they'll move on. Or maybe they end up staying. Maybe they become residents, right? Yeah. But when you grow up in this town and you come up in the Ann Arbor public school systems and you get elevated into a position in the AAPS system and you don't do right by the kids, I got straight heat for you, dog. I got straight heat for you. Because I know the first thing they want to tell kids, oh, I grew up in the Heights, or I grew up in the Brook, or I grew up over here, or I grew up over there. Well, why your bitch ass ain't acting like it? Because somebody else helped you along when you was coming up. That's how you got to where you're at. How come ain't nobody else like you helping? Don't tell these kids what hood you grow up in, because them hoods is all changed now.
Yeah.
Everything's changed now. And you've been elevated to something to where you can actually help these same kids that you talking down on. But nah, you'd rather just talk down versus lift up. You came in, didn't say nothing, and just lifted up. You just saw the landscape and took and just seized it.
And I still very much care for Pathways and the kids there. I mean, we give free tickets to our events to Pathways kids, so that we make sure that you are welcome, because it's not like that across the district for them.
Yeah.
But we make sure that they are welcome. Y'all can come to our stuff. Like, you don't have to go through all these hoops and loops and all this other stuff. You are welcome. We welcome you. BSU welcomes you. And we had BSU at the building. My significant other was there, and we were doing things with their kids, getting them a part of the reading program. Did a staff appreciation luncheon, got passports for a few of their kids, had a concert, where one of their kids who were in the program that they had that has a studio,
Mm-hmm.
a couple of his songs, concert, so like we were doing things over there, and I tried to get stuff over there because I understand that they don't have much going on. And I just think sometimes.
Are you met with resistance, or are they?
Oh no, we're not there anymore. And let me tell you how it went down. So when that report came, there's a quote in me saying that kids don't want to go to Pathways, and there is some legitimacy to that quote. And what the quote finishes out, what they leave out, is that the reason why I said kids don't want to go to Pathways. So the moment that you tell a kid, that, hey, you should go to Pathways, they no longer trust you. And so I said, so when you're in the meetings, you should make it seem like it's their idea by presenting what Pathways can do for you before you just say you should go to Pathways. And the thing is that's just true. I mean, shit, when I went to Roberto, I didn't want to go to Roberto. And so, like, anytime somebody is talking about sending you to an alternative program, you're probably gonna meet it with some resistance.
Right.
But like, and I'm thinking maybe that quote did get out, but I ain't even gonna cut no stuff. Like, what is going on over there? Because the stuff that I was doing ain't getting done no more.
So I have a question, and I don't need you to speak on any names in particular. Things have changed. Things have gotten worse. They were bad when you were there, and you still manifested. But they've gotten worse. Who's not aware of this? Because I know that
the report, the investigation, they say it's a great place with an Afrocentric curriculum or something like that. I believe that's what it says in the report. And the thing is, it's
that is 73 pages of dung.
Well, the thing is, it's like, so we had the BSU going up there. So going into the next year, my significant other, who's just had our child, is like, well, I want to go back to work, because I was like, I don't think you should work, but she's like, I want to go back to work because she actually loves the kids over there. She did the yearbook. She was doing the BSU.
Right.
Like, so
right.
I'm like, fine, whatever, go to work. Like,
you got a lot of nerve. Good and well, you can't be away from them kids. She can't be away from the kids either.
And so
good and well. I'd have to commit both of y'all if y'all couldn't be out them kids.
Yeah, they got a daycare on campus. So, and I love Chris, who runs a daycare, and I would love for my daughter to be around Chris. So I'm fine with that. So I'm comfortable with that. And,
is there any space? Because I know a lot of the faculty members already have spaces in there with their kids going to the daycare. Is there any more space?
Well, I don't know, but that was the plan. And so it gets to be August. She ain't heard nothing. She's emailing, she's calling, she's not hearing anything back. And then school starts. Still ain't heard nothing back about being brought back. About a week into school, she finally gets a call to come in and talk, where basically she's told she's not needed. And the problem with that, so now with her leaves the BSU and the yearbook, so two things that you had in there that did amazing things for your kids, they're both gone now. And then the timing, like, how do you say you care about your colleagues and your people? We have a child here. You don't know if we were counting on her getting that job in order to feed our kid. You know, like, how do you not give someone, you knew what you were doing. How do you not give someone that time to figure it out? Like 3-4 weeks ahead, like, look, we're going to go in another direction, you know? So if there's any other positions in the district that they can apply for, they can get them.
Wait a minute. So there was never a separation of employment then? She had no idea at all that she wouldn't be coming back to work?
Going to be coming back, that she wasn't going to be brought back at Pathways. And strung her along into a week into school. And the thing, and so, you know, when people talk about...
Can I ask a question?
What's up?
I know there's a considerable amount of people that work at that school that go to church with the HNIC. Was she replaced by somebody that goes to church with the HNIC?
You could say
possibly.
Okay. The other part to that, is, you know, like this goes back to, remember when I brought that up about Michael Madison and picking your talent.
Yep.
And that's the thing, man. Like, if you're not good at picking talent, or you just gonna pick people who are close to you, or just gonna tell you yes about everything, you got to prepare for having a dysfunctional environment. And then when you do, like, so practices. So when you do people like that, where you string them out, and then cut them off, like, that's just bad practice. That's bad practice. That's bad business.
Right.
And so you're doing that to that person. Who else are you doing that to? Because that's the thing. Habits and character, you know, they carry on.
Oh, dude, I mean, she's not even the third person that they did some dirty stuff to. So that's where
the only person that you're doing that stuff to. And then how this harms your kids is that nobody want to mess with you.
Yeah.
And nobody takes you seriously where you're at, because they know the type of the people you pick in and put it into your environment and stuff like that. Can't nobody take you serious. And so, yeah, y'all can preach to the outworld that, oh, this amazing thing is happening. Man, go talk to them kids. Go talk to them kids for 2 minutes. And
interesting choice of words, preaching. Interesting choice of words.
You go talk to them kids for 2 minutes. Like, they come to our parties and they tell us stuff. And that's the other thing, you know, you be hard pressed to get things around me around this area. It's hard because I'm touching almost everything. And so, like, you know, I see what you did. But we're in a situation where she ain't gotta work. She go to school now. You know, like, and you know, I did that. I made sure that could happen. Mm-hmm. But that still doesn't help when that's where she wanted to be, because she loved those kids. And there's photos in that building. You see them basketball posters and stuff like that. I don't know if you've seen those pictures with the basketball posters all across the top of the wall and everything. She did that. That was her. And so, you know, that's work, you know, that she giving at a major discount on top of doing the yearbook, just better in the school, things like that. That was her work. And you essentially cut your nose to spite your face. Mm-hmm. You know, and the thing is, I wouldn't know as much about your building if your people were loyal to you. They're not.
Absolutely.
That's the reason why I know so much.
Absolutely.
Your people don't mess with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, you know, at the end of the day, like, you know, that's something you need to look in the mirror and ask yourself why this is happening. Why is this going on? How do I have so many leaks? I have these leaks because clearly my people don't mess with me like that. Well, I need to look at myself and figure out, what am I doing, you know, for that? And the thing is, I don't care who is in charge of the building. I just want them kids to have things. I want them kids to have things. I want my colleagues to be in a place where they feel safe, where they feel like they're going to be good coming into school this day, where they can actually grow and be better. I don't want it to be a transient place, because that's the worst thing for those kids. I don't want people coming over there getting burnt out and then dipping out, because, you know, that's the equivalent to them, you know, to the schools, you know, that I would sometimes deal with in Detroit and stuff like that, where you would have so much teacher turnover and stuff because of the environment and the lack of resources and stuff like that. And so, like, it ain't got to be me that run these programs, but these programs need to be there.
Okay. Stop right there. If it ain't got to be you, who's it going to be, Will? Who's going to take the reins from what you've done, what you've started, what you've cultivated? Because ain't nobody did it before you. So who's going to do it if you stop? Well, this is that lack of ego that you have, because you got to think about it. If I stop, where does everything go the next day? Don't you know the culture changed when you got transferred and the next day you weren't in that school? The whole culture changed. The culture changed. It was over. And it just took time for the whole atmosphere to just tip upside down. So if you don't do it, who's going to do it? There's people in play. With the right spirit, they probably would be qualified to do some things, probably needing your help still to give them a little bit of the ism to make sure they're doing it the right way, because I'm not really connecting with these kids because I haven't worked with them, but you have. But see, that's ego. They're never going to reach out. But those people that are in play don't even want to do nothing. They don't want to. They just want to collect that AAPS check that's good enough for them to survive and get by and take care of their family. They ain't trying to do nothing extra for somebody else's kids.
Well, I guess that's, you know, why you keep applying pressure. Because I'll say it to anybody, I'm out here, and I mean, I'm willing to help. I ain't doing it for free, but I'm willing to consult and help.
Absolutely.
But
like, that's what you are. You're a consultant.
Thing is, it's like, you know, I've got my own outfit going on and everything like that, and I told myself I'm not going to burn myself out to be underappreciated in that place anymore. Mm-hmm. And shoot in any place for all of that. But like, yeah, I just look it over there, and it just sucks, because, you know, I still care about them kids. Like I said, I still reach out, still try and keep them involved, because that's another thing. Like, they can get really isolated over there. It can be a really isolating place, because they're
on an island, Will. They're on
because they're cut off from everyone. So I try my hardest to keep them involved. And once again, I'm not afraid of them. We had two rival factions in our party just a week ago. No issue. Because it's that respect. So even if I'm not there all the time, these kids still know enough about me out here to understand what I mean and what it means to be a part of our stuff. And so, you know, taking the RBSU up out of there, you only hurt the kids. So it's just like, I mean, if that's what you into, and that's why I never fear, like, oh, I'll be retaliated against or something. Because, like I said, as much as you want to hurt me, you don't really hurt me. You just hurt the kids. You take me away from something, you're hurting the kids. I still collect that same paycheck.
And that's the common denominator here. Obviously, we've talked about you, and I've talked about some of my experiences that, you know, I have so many different things. Can't wait to talk with you offline. And this is why I need you to get rid of, not the selflessness, but I need you to really understand how impactful you are and put it out there, because I'm going to come to you. I'm literally going to come to you. You don't know who I am. You may have known what some people may have told you, even your significant. But the one thing that I've prided myself in is always being not a specialist, but having really good product knowledge. Like, I want to know what I'm involved with. Now that I see what you're dealing with, say these kids are coming into Pioneer and at Pathways, let's say, because I know it's going to spread. And that's why we're not going to give too much. I don't talk too much strategy because people can go back and listen to this. And next thing you know, the program is up and running in some other school because they had the resources, because we're going to need the resources.
And see, but also, Shannon, I'm totally fine with that. I will give you the juice, the ingredients, because at the end of the day, we all here for kids.
But see, you know what you're going to do? You're going to give it to the wrong person and they're going to misuse it. And the kids aren't going to end up getting what they need. You are doing character building things and they're doing character shattering things. It ain't your job to walk around with a bottle of glue so you can start putting the pieces back together. Why do we always have to be the ones to try to fix these broken kids? How about if they don't break them? How about if they don't get broke? Just a man. See, that's how other kids can manifest.
Well, one of the things. So I think they find a lot of complications in hiring people of color or Black people because they ultimately, their value is on their comfort more than anything. First is your credentials, do your credentials check out, and then how comfortable do you make me? And when your top priority is your comfort, that's why you keep getting the repeat same type of person over and over again into these positions.
When you say me, you're speaking from the admin's perspective?
Yeah.
Are you serious? So they really look for that? They really
so
come on,
you gotta realize the people who are on these hiring teams and stuff like that. Like, here's my thing. If I'm looking for a candidate for a certain type of region, for a certain type of specialty, for a certain type of something, I'm going to get people who are familiar with that to help me look for this candidate. I'm not going to make that call myself.
Okay.
I'm going to get people who know that, because that's no assault on my pride or my intelligence. Me being intelligent is getting people who understand what I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. But see,
that's a great coach right there.
Yeah.
Because the head coach is the leader, but you go get other coaches who have an expertise in defense or offense or conditioning and different things like that.
If you're looking for these certain folks, well, you need to consult with people who you are trying to do something that really doesn't get done. So obviously it's going to be a little uncomfortable because there's going to be some systemic changes. Mm-hmm. So you need to get people who understand this. But the problem is those people make you uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And they make you so uncomfortable that you're just like, I don't want to do this. And so you continue to do the same thing, and that's why you continue to get the same results. It's not hard to play in the interview. You just make them comfortable.
Look, man, I'm gonna cut you off real quick because didn't you say you had to be somewhere at 3:00?
Yeah, I do.
There ain't no way in hell we were supposed to be on here this long, but it became more of a conversation than an interview. We only even used the term interview once or twice here. But the thing is, what you've done, like I said, it's nothing short of remarkable. And you have to be able to take ownership and understanding. If you hadn't did what you did, it would have never gotten done. These kids would have never been affected in the way they were. And you would have never had the foresightedness to go do other things. So absolutely continue to do what you need to do. There's things that we'll talk about offline because I feel like we can make a ridiculous bridge. As an old head, I understand the youth is where it's at, period. I can deal with old people on certain things, but the reason that I still will stay connected with elders is they can help us get the resources because they really know where everything. There's people that I will seek out that are older than me or that are in a more prosperous level than me to help programs like yours and anything that you're connected with the kids. You can't be out here trying to fundraise. You can't be out here trying to do this. You can't be out here trying to do that and making sure the program works well. The program is only going to work well as if it stays rooted in the spirit of Mr. William Copeland, King Cope. And I thank you for coming on. I thank you for being who you are. The connection, it's going to be priceless. Just trust me. It's going to be priceless because you're solid in who you are. I'm solid in who I am. There ain't no stepping on no toes here until we get to walking together because we're going to step on a lot of toes, bro. I'm just telling you. And now that I know Stevie's your daddy, well, damn. This is a cat that I've looked up to for years, man. Really, I've looked up just the whole Copeland family. Y'all got like mad shit to say around Washtenaw County. So I know you come from solid stock.
And real quick, I don't think they get that either. They don't know my last name. And so like
That's the, you know what? Yeah.
Coming at us when they came at us so reckless, y'all just don't understand who we are.
Right.
And that's like the warning, and that's the warning for everyone. You need to understand who you're dealing with.
Right.
If you don't know this last name, you might want to ask some folks about it.
Right.
So like that's what so you can't make me out to be the crazy person, because baby, my family won't play that.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And by you keeping that close to your vest, because that ain't even something you need to pull out every time. Because if it ever really got greasy, yeah, you got to pull it out, but you ain't got to pull that out. Dude, they know that the results that you've done, nobody else would have ever accomplished, because they don't have anybody with that spirit. Even that's in play, even high-ranking admins don't have the spirit you have, nor are they willing to put the time, effort, and the resources into the situations that you have. So you just have to keep moving along. You're going to start building more and more teams. These kids right now, they're so fortunate to have you. The ones that have come along and left, they were fortunate to have you. I want to help you develop them stair-step programs to when they do leave, and when they go off to the other institutions. Let's start them at junior high. Let's not wait till they get to Pi High or Pathways or any of the other schools. We don't want to cut any kid off. But you literally, you're a placer. You are a placement person. You are putting kids where they would have never gotten without your tutelage. So just understand that. And it ain't about being arrogant. It ain't about being cocky, but you got to just know, could nobody else have done this shit without me? Not saying that you did it all by yourself, but you virtually did. And what you did, if they could have did it, they would have did it. We already know. Because now they're doing it in a bad way, and they paying people to do it badly. They didn't pay you, and look what you accomplished. Now they're paying somebody, and he can't get out the gate. Bro, I appreciate you. We'll talk more offline. This has been a great discussion. I hope that you were able to get some things off your chest today.
Yeah, I thank you, because like no one, like you said, I've been this, I don't know what to call it. I've been like this shadow.
Mm-hmm.
And like no one has ever asked me how I felt. From the Pathways thing to the investigations and all that. Like I've never really been asked how I felt or anyone wants to talk about it. So I thank you for that. Because it's like the first time these things are out there about me. And it's just like, I've never really had the opportunity to like look at them and kind of address them or, give my side of things that are happening. And so like, it's cool that I could come here and do that.
That's really where my platform is different from other platforms. I mean, I am an over talker by nature. So I tried to reel back on my conversation, and I know I still stepped over you a little bit today. But the main thing for me is I already know some of the stuff, but I was looking to fill in some of the blanks, and some of the blanks and some of the gaps that you filled in were ridiculous. And I know we didn't dig as deep into the current situations going over at Pathways, but I also wanted to kind of keep you away from that because I know you're not directly connected with that.
Mm-hmm.
But do you see that as chickens coming home to roost based on where you were and where they are now?
Part of me, probably laughs maniacally in the background because, I was over there. I was doing it. I was killing it. And
yeah,
to see the things that are coming out in the public over there, or to even hear the things that are coming out, and it's just kind of like, part of me is like, so, it was me. It was me like creating and doing this stuff. And because I just knew they was gonna find somebody to do what I was doing and make it look like I ain't never, like it wasn't nothing special. Because that's how they always communicated it to me. Like, oh, what you doing is what everybody do. It ain't nothing special. Like that's what was always given off. And so I just knew that was coming. I just knew they was gonna find a new hot young person come in there and start doing these programs and stuff. And to see that those things aren't happening, it's just like, damn, like it was me. I was that.
You know where the hot young person is going to come from? It's going to come from one of your graduates who goes out there, gets their credentials together, and can come back through the system. It's not going to be somebody, because, like I said, how can you grow up in the Ann Arbor public school system, deal with everything that you're dealing with, and sorry, at 1:56, if my lady's in the house and I'm in the house, we kiss each other because that's the time we met. Nobody probably saw it because I think I went off camera. I'm not sure or not. But anyway, how could that be a situation of what you do, and they grew up in the school system just like you did? They go back to work for the school system just like you did. They get elevated to higher ranking positions on the faculty, and they didn't do it. So who do you think is going to come in here? Somebody has to have the heart to do this, Will. They have to have the heart and the spirit to do that. And the only people that are going to do that is somebody that's been in a space that you've been in, or were one of your pupils, were one of the people that you really put on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't happen. I know for a fact they won't do it. And you just stated it a few minutes ago, because they're not comfortable enough to do that.
Yeah.
They're just not. So, brother, get to your engagement. Hopefully I didn't make you late.
No.
We're going to talk again offline. Hopefully we'll talk again online. And just, hey, I'm saying it. Views of Freedmen Media are not directly the views of Will Copeland. Fuck them clowns. Just keep doing you, bro. Just keep doing you. And yeah, well, let's build soon, and we just go from there.
Okay.
All right now?
All right.
All right, be good.
This revolution is filled with so many ironies, really. First, you tell us that it is manly to keep your word, right? If you are a man, you keep your word. And now all of the black people in this country are demanding, and even the black people in the whole world are demanding, is that you keep your word. You told us we were free. Well, then show us that we're free. You told us that there is justice, equality for all in this country. Well, then stick to your word and let us see the justice and equality for all. Or else admit to us that you're not a man, you're a worm, you're afraid of us, you're afraid to give us equal stand. You're afraid that if you give us equal ground, that we will match you and we will override you.